Hey everyone, welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where we teach future Survivor players how to play the game by criticizing past players this time. Because yes, it's back. By popular demand, we have another episode in our Survivor Rewind series. I'm one of your three fabulous co-hosts, Ryan Stacy, your resident Survivor superfan, who knows everything there is to know about Survivor and nothing about most other topics.
And I'm Derek Kubicek, and I am excited to return semi on parental leave, also semi off of parental leave with a newborn.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah,
this is your first time back since you've had a
baby.
baby.
Did it. Yep, and it has been some Survivor watching, but mostly learning about what it means to take care of a small human.
You're helping a baby survive.
I'm helping a baby. That baby is playing its own version of Survivor, and it's at the stage.
He's doing a really bad job.
He's at the stage where he's trying to yeet himself off of anyone throwing him or anything that you set him on. So, you know, good on him, but hopefully that stops. I'm sure next time we talk about this, there will be a new challenge, but happy to be back into some semblance of normalcy. This has become a normal part of my routine. I love Survivor, and I'm happy to be back.
And then our third glorious co-host.
I am Josh Whistler. I never left, and I don't have a kid, so yeah, that's all I got.
In case it wasn't clear, by the way, I have not seen these past seasons, so part of the reason we're doing this is so that I can one day call myself super fan like Ryan and Josh.
Yes, because you're not there yet.
I'm not there yet.
You're a filthy peasant.
I'm so close.
But, you know, Derek kind of gives us, like, the fresh take as he watches these seasons for the first time. And then, Josh, your role is the memorability consultant.
Yeah, so I haven't seen some of these older seasons, season 19 specifically, for a couple years. So it's cool to look back on them and see exactly how long ago, first of all, it was. This one specifically is memorable for me just because this kind of marked the beginning of when we started doing this podcast.
Yep. This is your first season you watched after we had started the prep for the podcast.
Yeah, and then I had finished watching the rest of the seasons all the way up until 26 or something like that, just kind of in my own time. So it's interesting how much my view has changed on Survivor and being able to read different situations by just breaking it down through this podcast. I had a lot of really bad thoughts that I had written down at the time, so it's gonna be interesting to go back and look at them.
Yes,
I love it.
You two both have horrible takes. I never do, and it'll be great. We're gonna talk about them.
Yeah. Any burn books?
Shh. That wasn't a take. That was just a false memory.
Well, it was multiple takes. Did we even end up saying what we're revisiting today yet?
Yes, that's what we're about to talk about.
Surprise!
We're going to be watching Season 19, Survivor Samoa, just the pre-merge today. The first 7 episodes of the season, we're going to be talking about all of Survivor Samoa, which is a notorious / infamous season in certain circles. There's a big Survivor character's debut here. Even people who have never seen him play, Derek, has heard of this man. This is a big deal. It's an important season. Whether it's good or not, that's up to you.
Absolutely. And before we even get into the spoiler section, I just like to let everyone know if I was spoiled on anything coming into this season. So, I have an idea of what the theme of season 20 is, which means I had a feeling that a certain person would be making their debut in season 19. That is really all I knew about the season. I don't know about placements. I don't know who the winner is. I try to stay as spoiler-free as I can on the interwebs and on social media while still trying to remain a little bit active with you guys out there in the field. I do not know the winner of season 19. I don't know the placement. I really don't know anything that is happening. I didn't even know that it was in Samoa. So you're getting someone who's pretty green, but otherwise fairly knowledgeable on Survivor, I believe. So I'm excited to jump into it.
Yeah, the whole point of this podcast is you're busy. You got crap to do. Pandemic's still happening. There's stuff going on. Maybe you have time to rewatch. Maybe you don't. But we are here to rewatch Survivor so you don't have to. We're going through every season, and we're here to tell you which ones are must-watch Survivor, which ones are not much-watch Survivor, so you can pick and choose if you so choose to watch Survivor that way. However, we would implore you to watch every season and then come back to listen to us, because some of the stuff we like, you might not like. Everybody likes Survivor for different reasons. Go watch it all, but if you can't, listen to us. We're pretty smart.
Yeah, we got a ton of new followers and new listeners during the last season 41.
Welcome, everyone.
Yeah. So if you're new to this part of the podcast, this style, yes, we have gone through all the first 18 before this as well. Mm-hmm. So you can go back through your feed to listen to some of those. If you've watched them before, if you have some favorite seasons that you'd like to listen to, go for it.
The Borneo one was our first ever podcast for Survivor.
Have mercy on us.
Forgive us if that one's a little clunky. I haven't gone back and listened to that one. Maybe I should.
Oh, I've listened to it. We definitely are disjointed.
Sure.
Or we're trying to formulate thoughts that are coherent while not really being able to riff on, who's recording, what's being said, and what's necessary, what's not necessary. Definitely something that I've learned to do is trim back what I'm speaking about. So if you listen to episode 1, you're like, oh, these guys suck. Just remember, that was like our debut ever. That was just 3 white guys sitting at a table trying their best. And
that was even before Island of the Idols.
That was before Island of the Idols aired.
So
in the before time, in the long ago.
That was also before every single white guy had a podcast.
I know that was about right in the middle.
It was right in the middle.
Joined right with everyone else. Was there like a weird calling? Did like all white men hear this weird noise that don't like a dog whistle that only white guys can hear and be like, make a podcast, make a podcast?
I mean, here we are. So
Here we are. I'm wondering if that happened.
It must have been the 5G.
We may not have been first, but we're going to be last.
We're going to be last one standing. Every other white guy's going to fall, and we'll be left standing.
If you're not first, you're last. Anyway.
So the big question we have for us, gentlemen, we've just watched the pre-merge. We're not going to talk about the post-merge at all today. No spoilers for the post-merge. We will be spoiling all the pre-merge. Before we get into any spoilers, is this must-watch Survivor? Just the pre-merge going halfway through the season, are we at must-watch Survivor?
I think we are. I think that this is must-watch Survivor, and if you've been following, great. If you haven't, one thing I try to do is build out the Survivor lexicon, the Survivor mythos, and again, we're going to get a very famous player's debut. So if you want to fill out your video game-esque glossary of important people, species, characters, placements, things that happened in Survivor history, you do need this pre-merge. Is the gameplay particularly good? I don't think so. Are both tribes particularly interesting? Not really. Are the challenges pretty cool? Yes. Is the weather crazy? Yes. But mostly, it's the one guy. That's just my opinion, but I will land on the side that it is must-watch for that reason.
I'm going to go with a mixed bag on this one because I'm of 2 minds. From the historical what can we learn perspective, yeah, I think so, because we have a player who changed the game. Wasn't on Survivor Game Changers, but this guy did change the game. For better or for worse, that's up to you. I think for the better. I think, I've heard Rob Cesternino call him Survivor Viagra. He kind of revitalized the show a little bit. I agree with that. I think he's important. I think studying and understanding his game is both the good things and the bad things, is extremely important to understanding how to win Survivor and how to play Survivor. So from a historical perspective, I'd say yes, there's a lot of important stuff here. On an entertainment perspective, no, the season's miserable. This season is no fun throughout the pre-merge. It's rainy. Everyone's dying. People get hurt horrifically. There's racism. There's classism. There's ignorance. There's a couple of guys. There's one guy who is just one of my least favorite people to ever play the game. And I wanted him off my screen so bad. So this is kind of a miserable pre-merge to sit through. There's not much in terms of redeeming qualities. But if you're here to learn, if you're here to learn today, so you're not always going to like what you have to learn. This is an important lesson. It's not a fun one, but it's important.
Now, do you think that you'd be able to achieve that and just pick one half of the season? If you're talking about seeing the gameplay and learning your lesson, seeing the good and the bad. So would you be able to achieve that just through the post-merge?
Stay tuned. You'll have to listen to the post-merge episode for my comments on that.
What a tease. My opinion, outside of a few moments, the pre-merge is actually not that memorable. It has a couple of big highlighted moments, but that's about it. I do think it's important though, so I feel like I kind of line up with Ryan on I'm kind of just wishy-washy or a mixed bag for multiple different reasons. So I guess that's 2 half points almost from me and Ryan to kind of get the seal of approval here to say must watch, I guess.
For the purpose of this podcast, if you're here to learn how to play the game, yes. If you just want to watch something entertaining and you don't really care about that aspect of it, don't watch this one. You can do way better. At least with the pre-merge. We'll see if that changes in the post-merge. Hopefully it does. Mm-hmm. All right. So from here on out, there will be spoilers just for the pre-merge. So spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Okay. One thing I want to mention is the cast is not very good. One of the least interesting casts on Survivor, I think. And I don't know if that's because of the Survivor editors not giving them due justice.
I think it is.
I lean towards that. But I also lean towards there's a few people I think were genuinely not that interesting, and I don't know why they're here.
I mean, just coming off of the backs of 41, how heavily they invest in each of the actual players' like times, it's an insane difference. Just looking at, I only watched the premiere, so like just looking at the premiere alone, let alone the rest of the pre-merge, it's so different.
I would argue this is either the first or second place for the worst edited season of Survivor in terms of balanced editing. I would say this is first or second place.
I think it's the worst through 19 seasons so far.
I'll agree. Because the other one who's in the running, you haven't seen that season.
Sure.
So enjoy that tease, Derek. There's another real rough one. So a game we played before we started our season is Josh and I go over the cast list, and just based on the photos, how many people can Josh remember? He got 6 out of 20, better than I was expecting.
Yeah, and that's with missing probably, I'd say 2 I should have also gotten on top of that.
Your winner pick?
No, I would never do that. But yeah, it's... There's some oddly memorable faces, but I think that's just because there's such a gap for the rest of the cast. Like it falls off fast.
Yes, it does. There's a couple of people who get a bunch of screen time, and then there's some people who get basically none. On that note, you guys ready to jump into these episodes and talk about Russell Hantz and just Russell Hantz?
Let's do it.
Let go.
All right. Episode 1, The Puppet Master. We get our 2 tribes of 20 people. They've already been decided. Both tribes have to elect a leader, which is the twist for the season, which is one I like. It really screws one or two people over, but basically right off the bat, one person from each tribe is going to be elected on first impressions alone, and they are going to be put in the position to make a lot of decisions for the tribe. So they have a lot of power, and they'll have to face all the ramifications of those choices. Not a position you want to be in. You never want to be the leader. And these people are going to be forced into this position.
And it's a blind vote. So there's not even any discussion about it. It's just, hey, this person has this hairstyle and this color shirt. That's who I'm voting for leader. They don't even know names yet.
They do this a couple of times in different ways just throughout Survivor, where they do like blind voting, whether it's for a leader or just like first impressions, like for various reasons. And I always kind of lean on the side of, let's not do that, just because we know nothing about these people. Yep. And it's just stereotyping normally.
Yeah, generally I don't like it. This is like the one time I kind of enjoy it, just because like it's not like you're getting kicked out of the game or something like that. This one's kind of funny. It just picks 2 random people. It's like, hey, good luck. You're in a tough position, and it's like an interesting idea. So I actually kind of like this twist.
And we had something similar happen in season 18, right at the beginning, where they sent 2 people off to camp early. So a little bit different. We're electing a leader here, but it's still that blind voting aspect, which usually falls on some kind of stereotyping.
So this is a good spot to introduce the tribes. We have the Foa tribe in yellow. There's 10 people in each tribe. We have Ashley Trainer, who is a spa saleswoman from Minnesota, right actually the town next to mine. So I'm from the same neck of the woods as Ashley.
Basically brother and sister.
Basically. Ben Browning, a bar manager from Los Angeles and one of my least favorite people to ever play Survivor.
Fair.
Betsy Bolin, a police officer from New Hampshire. Jason Robinson, a law student from Chicago. Liz Kim, an urban planner from New York City. Marisa Callahan, a student from Cincinnati. Mick Trimming, a doctor from Los Angeles, who's going to be elected leader. They refer to him as Mick McDreamy.
Before it's time.
Well, I think it was...
Or actually, yeah.
Right in the middle of Grey's Anatomy's been on for a long time.
It's been on for way too long.
Mike Barassi, a personal chef from California. He's a mean Moda Scuda. Natalie White, a pharmaceutical saleswoman from Arkansas. And someone who doesn't matter at all, Russell Hantz, an oil company owner from Texas. Definitely not that important of a person.
A No Name also ran.
No Name also ran. He'll probably be out second, and we'll never talk about him again.
Can I just say that when I first watched this season, I like, unlike Derek, I actually didn't follow a lot of the Survivor stuff online and on Twitter especially, and had been like spoiled on anything. I actually didn't know who Russell was.
That's fun.
Like, I think you had mentioned maybe something, but like,
you ignore most of what I say.
Like, I went into this season, you're going to introduce him here in a second, and I'm going in not knowing which of the 2 Russells you're talking about. so like, I see everything unraveling in front of me, and it was just so pure.
That's
and
nice.
I loved it so much. Like, I loved most of it, but like, it was just so nice to have something so fresh, and I feel so bad that Derek cannot go through that.
Yep.
That would be really funny to be watching this pre-merge thinking that good Russell might go full Anakin.
That'd be great.
Well, because I didn't even know that stuff. Like Ryan did a really good job with me not mentioning any of that stuff. And since I didn't really follow that much Survivor-related people online, like, I didn't know if Russell was infamous for good reasons, for bad reasons, if he killed someone on the game. I don't know. Like, I didn't know.
If someone was most likely to kill someone in Survivor, Russell Lance would be near the top of that list. I'm not gonna lie.
Or a relative.
No comment.
Oh, no, Derek.
Okay, let's move over to the Galoo tribe in purple. We have Brett Closer, a t-shirt designer from Los Angeles. Dave Ball, a fitness instructor from Los Angeles. Eric Cardona, a bartender from Los Angeles.
Oh, hi, LA.
John Fincher, a rocket scientist from Santa Monica, which is next to Los Angeles.
Hey, they got one Minnesota person on this season.
Kelly Sharba, a hairstylist from San Diego, which is pretty close to Los Angeles.
Oh, my God.
Laura Moret, an office manager from Oregon, which is in the state that borders Los Angeles. It's a state.
All right. That's far enough away.
Monica Padilla, a law student from San Diego, which is next to Los Angeles. Russell Swan, an attorney from Pennsylvania, which is known as East Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
Shamba Waters, a saleswoman from Washington, which has nothing to do with Los Angeles. And Yasmin Giles, a hairstylist from Los Angeles.
Oh, my God.
You know, you can't say that they weren't diverse in this cast. You know, we were giving adulation to season 41 diversity, but let me tell you, this was pretty impressive.
You know, they may all be from the same state, but at least they're not all white.
Sure.
Like, from a racial diversity perspective, it's actually pretty good.
I mean, it's pretty good in the history of the first 19 seasons of Survivor.
I mean, 40% on this tribe is not bad.
Yeah, you know.
Considering that's the first Survivor standards, that's not bad.
Baby steps.
It is funny that most of them were plucked out of a 50-mile radius, though.
Now, I'm going to give a little bit of inside baseball away that Derek doesn't know yet. There's a big connection here. Brett and Laura, Josh, I don't know if you know this, but Brett and Laura from this tribe knew each other before the season started. They used to live near each other, and they went to the same church.
Wow.
Did not know that,
They're never going to address it on the show.
You know, when you have like 10 people from around LA, like that's bound to happen eventually.
Yeah. So Laura and Brett did know each other going into the season, which is pretty wild.
Interesting.
Did the producers know that?
Probably
do you think?
I don't think they like that when that happens. Because that's happened a couple of times throughout Survivor really weirdly, and I don't think they like it, but they've started to actually address it on the show. Like, cut ahead to Heroes, Healers, Hustlers. Again, same thing happened. They did not address it. But then we get down to the Idols with Dean and Kelly, and they knew each other, or at least had a mutual friend.
Yep.
And they did address it that time, so they're actually willing to address it these days, which I like.
I mean, it makes sense. How would you know?
Yeah.
How you're just casting people individually and then constructing a cast. You can't be like, oh, what's your network?
What are
Check
the
their
odds?
mutual friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
Might be a good idea, future Survivor producers.
Delete your Facebook.
Yeah, everyone delete their Facebook.
You should just do that in general.
And the castaways aren't going to say anything when they recognize the person because they don't want to get kicked off the season. They're scared. So they're not going to say anything until it's too late. Which I don't blame them for. That's totally... And besides, you have someone you know in the game. That could be a huge ally. Granted, it didn't really work out for Allie and Patrick and Heroes, those Hustlers. But generally... Or Kelly, I guess.
Can you imagine... So Ryan, you used to live in LA.
I did.
Can you imagine...
If Kendall...
No, I'm thinking like us. Like, let's say all three of us applied for Survivor. Two of us get cast or something. They're not going to cast two people from Fargo.
No,
that's,
God, no.
That's idiotic. That's only something that you do for LA.
You don't live in Fargo anymore.
I mean, true. Imagine if they would have casted you and then one of me or Derek.
Well, I was living in LA. That would have been hilarious.
While you were in LA, we both show up just... Oh my gosh.
I've never met this man before in my life.
Oh, hey, who are you, person? So for the Galoo tribe, Russell Swan is elected leader because he is wearing a blazer. Actually, they're both wearing blazers. That's probably why they were both kind of... Don't wear a blazer on Survivor. Do not wear a blazer on Survivor.
Not their choice, I'm assuming.
Probably not your choice, but do not wear a blazer. Tell them you hate blazers and don't do it.
Yeah, you don't want to be the one in a suit.
Yeah,
I'm allergic.
So we get a little fun challenge where each leader has to pick the participants in the reward challenge. They have to choose blindly who they think is the best swimmer, the strongest, the most agile, and the smartest. It doesn't really matter, except for Russell Swan picks a guy named John to be the swimmer, and John is terrible and blows it, and they lose the challenge.
What do you
It
do?
wasn't that bad. I mean,
think
it was unfair to compare to someone who actually swims.
Yeah, a collegiate water polo player.
Jason gets picked for Foa, and he's a collegiate water polo player.
And again, they know nothing about each other. How did you pick out the collegiate water polo player? That's insane.
Tough spot to be in. I kind of like it just because it's just like, oh, here's a little challenge right out the gate. But it's not like you're going to get kicked out of the game for it.
Yeah.
It's not like Sarah Palau, where we voted out two people instantly.
True.
It's just a little fun. So on Foa, Mick doesn't really want to be the leader. So he's going to step back and let a guy who knows what he's doing take charge. And Ben is a self-proclaimed redneck, a horrible person, and he just starts building away.
In fairness, he does not proclaim to be a horrible person. It's just everything he says and does after this.
Yeah. He's fine in the first episode, but
Yes.
it's after this.
Yes.
So Ben knows what he's doing building shelters, and nobody actually ever seems to have a problem with how he built the shelter. So it seems like he actually does. You know, he's not like a Billy Garcia from Cook Islands who didn't know what they were doing. Seems like Ben actually did know what he's doing. Ben, so good for Mick to just like, I'm good. You go right ahead.
And honestly, not to give accolades, but like good on Ben. If you can contribute and you are able to successfully do so and contribute in a meaningful way, that could pay dividends in the future. So even though he's a horrible person, this particular aspect, I like it because people aren't going to paint a target on your back for being knowledgeable about building a shelter.
As long as you're not a jerk about it.
As long as you're not a jerk about it.
Tough for Ben to do.
Well, and to be clear, it's not like there was like this like passing of the torch of like,
No.
you are now the leader. So like we're not gonna just dock points on Ben's side because of that. He's just building a shelter, doing a good job at it.
So Russell Hantz decides to form an alliance, which, and I will quote, he calls it his dumbass girls alliance. I do not condone such language.
Brian, how dare you? Those
But
are your original words, and we
His
know it.
plan is to form an alliance with women, and particularly women he doesn't see as strong. So right off the gate, he just throws lines out with Ashley, Natalie, Marisa, and Betsy, just to get as many women on his thing as possible. He doesn't want any smart women around. He wants dumb women around, basically, that he can control. That's his plan.
I wonder if he stereotyped Liz as being smart.
Yeah, Liz is Asian. He doesn't make an alliance with Liz.
And Betsy's a little older.
Betsy's a little older, and then, there's like the two dumb blondes, as he calls them, and then Marisa. We watched this episode with your wife, Derek.
Yeah, she had thoughts.
She had thoughts.
And rightfully so.
And rightfully so.
She hates him. She's like, wow, he might be worse than Coach. And I was like, you know what? That's fair. Based on these confessionals, that's 100% fair. I do think that if she would have watched more of the season with me, she would end up hating Coach maybe a little bit more. But Russell in episode 1 is bad. Yep. It does not age well.
And Betsy, who's a cop and a little older, does not trust him. Doesn't say anything, but,
She actually says, oh, I'll work with him. Yeah, that's great. So this is a good move. Hey, I'll work with you, turns onto the camera. This guy is a piece of work. Yeah. I do not like him. So this is good by Betsy. This is great for Betsy.
Over on Galoo, Russell Swan, he does take on the leadership role. He wants to be the leader. Not great, but that is one direction you can go. If you were elected leader against your will, what can you do besides lean into it? It's a rough spot to be in. I don't fault him for leaning into it. It's not ideal, though.
It's one of those things where, okay, you got blind voted as the leader. If you don't do it, people might just vote you out because it's like, oh, well, we made you leader and you failed us. So
it's a no-win situation.
You got placed into a job that you didn't apply for.
Do not wear a blazer.
Yeah, that's the problem. He wore a blazer.
That's not even a joke.
Wore a blazer and had a winning smile. I believe you.
Worst player of the episode. Wore a blazer.
Everyone after season 19 should know not to wear a blazer. If we ever see anyone wearing blazers after 19, we dock them points.
We have precedents.
John Fincher annoys some people, especially Shambo. He talks too much, doesn't work enough, so sounds like an engineer to me. Oh! I think my dad probably really liked that joke. Let me know, Dad.
All the engineers that are listening.
If you yap too much and don't work, it's not really... There's going to be a lot of people who don't like that.
Yeah, and he's a rocket scientist. Yeah. So, he definitely thinks of himself as being one of the smarter on the tribe. I shouldn't say he definitely. Based on what we saw, he definitely thinks that he is someone worth listening to.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to build a shelter on Survivor.
Apparently, it was too hard because nobody wanted to listen to you.
Well, it's multiple people. Like, it's not just like one person getting annoyed. Like, we get multiple reactions from people around his tribe. So
mostly for Shambo, but yes.
Yeah. Remember, if you get the supercut, it means it's probably fair.
Yep. Eventually, the whole tribe decides to stop working and go for a swim. Shambo does not go with. Shambo, that's bad. Go with.
And then complains about it.
Has kind of this Rudy attitude. She's like, if I was in charge, we'd be working all the time. But she says, I got to fit in with them. All right, that's the right mentality. That's what Rudy did for the most part. Shambo doesn't do that. She knows what to do, but she doesn't.
It's what Russell is doing, because we will hear that Russell wants to do more work around the camp. He wants to try and get everything done. He wants it to be orderly, but he took note of the fact that he had a more social, more lackadaisical group, and he's like, cool, let's go hang out in the water. He's doing an excellent job of being leader of that tribe. It's a tale of two personalities where Shambo's like, I know what I need to do, and I'm not doing it. And Russell's like, I know what I need to do, and I'm doing it. So juxtapose those two. Russell is what you want to do. Shambo is what you don't.
Russell Hantz tells everyone he's a Katrina survivor that night. This is, I don't remember exactly when this. I'll check, because Hurricane Katrina was 2005, right?
Yeah, this is 2009.
Yeah, so this is just a few years after Katrina. And he tells this really sad story. He's a New Orleans firefighter. His house got flooded in Katrina, and his dog drowned. Oh my God.
Jesus.
When you first see this story, it's kind of heartbreaking. And then Russell's like, that's not true at all. I never lived in New Orleans. I'm a firefighter.
I'm an oil man from Texas.
Yeah. I'm an oil man.
Not great for your personal image outside of the game, but bad move?
I say bad move because I think that by the time you're in season 19, sympathy votes don't really work anymore, especially not early on.
But this is so different. Like, Katrina was huge.
Yep.
Just talking about your experience and like what made you who you are. Now, this is complete BS, but like this is the right type of topic to not feel like it's a huge like sympathy type of vote.
This seems to work on like Ashley and Natalie. They seem to be, like, oh my God. There is something to be said about opening up a little bit, showing, telling a story and, connecting with someone that way. This is not a true story. And Maurice's like, I don't know if I buy this. So that's the risk you run.
Maybe don't go too over the top.
Yeah, maybe leave out the dog drowning part.
When we say it's okay to hide your occupation, sure, he's a Texas oil man.
Totally fine.
There's the Eagle Butte is in Texas, the Permian Basin, Texas. Like, there's a lot of oil down there. He is not hard off for money.
He could just say like, I work in oil. Like, he owns a company.
Yeah.
He could be like, no, I work for an oil company.
I work in the fields. You could say something like that. Yeah. That's what I would do. It's still not an easy life, but going straight for the Katrina survivor, I don't know. I think
would not recommend.
I think that's almost cartoonishly evil.
It's very funny. Then, to really amp things up, he starts sabotaging his own camp.
Check one on the most memorable moment of the pre-merge.
He dumps out their canteens and he throws Jason's sock in the fire. Dude! And his plan is if he makes everyone miserable, they will be easier to control. Okay, there's some logic there. Here's the thing, though. You need to win challenges.
This is very early to be taking this route. I remember watching this a few years back, and my immediate thought was, oh my God, he's going to ruin this tribe, and they're all going to get voted out.
And they have one of the worst win rates. They win like 2 challenges the entire pre-merge, 1 reward challenge, 1 immunity challenge. Only 4 of these people are going to make it to the merge. That is a risky strategy to run. Again, I would not recommend it. It could work for you. I would not recommend it. This is like, what are the odds?
This is something where I would like to see the success rate of this if you implement it a little bit later in the season.
Sure.
Just to see how it impacts, morale and everything.
Yeah, maybe
if you're a little bit behind.
This might work well in the merge. You get people, you start sabotaging stuff and get in people's heads.
Hey, we saw this work well for Sandra in season 7. Who dumped the fish? Mm-hmm. Wasn't me. Just step back and be like, oh no, I didn't do that. I did another bad thing you didn't like. I didn't lose the fish.
So sabotage can work, but this is too early.
Way too early. You have no idea what this game's going to look like.
But it does cause Ben and Maurice to fight, so it does create a rift and, takes attention off of Russell. So, short term, it works for sure. It's definitely effective. Is it the right thing to do? I don't think so. And Galoo's going to win immunity. Get used to hearing that. So the plan right now, Mike wants Ashley out. Mike's the oldest guy in the tribe. He just doesn't want anybody to confirm, so he just throws out a name. Ashley. Let's go get Ashley. That seems to be the plan until Marisa tells Russell she's kind of like wary of him, and like because he's been talking to a lot of people. And Russell's like, "Oh, she's smart. We can't have that. We don't want no smart women on this tribe.
There are no smart women allowed in the Dumbass Girls Alliance."
Exactly.
Again, this is a quote, not me.
So he rallies basically everyone against her.
While this can work, like, he has the right thought process behind it. Like, it's someone who's starting, but I feel like he just went way too aggressive right out the gate. Like, nowadays, if you try to act on something like that, you could very well be the one going home because people should be able to recognize this and have a massive red flag on you.
I think if Russell played for the first time in season 42, I think he would be out early if he tried this stuff.
I think he'd be out second. Yeah. I think that this vote would work, and then everyone would see it. Giant red flag, out next.
He starts trying his stuff again, then he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Russell would not do well in this whatever age of Survivor we're in now, the post modern.
Yeah.
A new era.
A new era. The Tribal Council is kind of a mess for a lot of people. Betsy says Ashley's the weakest out loud. You don't say that. Ben fights with Marisa. You don't do that. Russell says he likes everyone except Marisa. You don't do that.
And also, to rewind, if you're Marisa, you don't tell Russell that you're wary of him before the first vote.
Yeah.
You don't do that.
You don't tell someone you don't trust them or they're acting sketch. You tell other people, like, Russell's acting sketch. Russell's real sus right now.
Did Russell make a final two alliance with you too? Man, if the communication on this tribe is crap. Like, if two people were just like, wait, this doesn't add up.
Well, who was Betsy talking to? Because she was like the one person who actually did this well.
I want to say it was Natalie.
I don't know. Russell's just kind of...
That was Natalie.
Okay.
Natalie. She was talking to Natalie about that.
So, like, Betsy was really the only one who did a good job at that, of doing it behind the scenes of, like, planting the seeds of, I don't know if I can trust Russell.
And I'll talk about that a little bit when we get to our winner picks. But, yeah, this Tribal Council is not a great example of how to play Survivor well.
It's going to be 7 votes for Marisa, 3 for Ashley. Mick and Betsy vote for Ashley for some reason. Right move, I guess? Derek, what do you think? Is this the right move?
I don't know because of the editing and the normal length premiere episode, I don't know how this tribe drew lines. I don't know if Russell actually created a cohesive alliance and then proclaimed himself the leader and nicknamed it the Dumbass Girl Alliance. If that's the case, then obviously this would be a bad move for Ashley, Betsy, and Natalie, right? And Russell, because, even if she's a little wary of you, she's in your alliance, and maybe you just want to establish a 5-4 lead over the other half before you do anything. But we're not given any of that. So all I can say is, okay, for this tribe, it's fine. It's a fine first move.
There isn't a clear, obvious choice, so fine.
Yep. So it's fine. Maybe Ashley would have been better if she was clearly the weakest, which obviously 3 people thought she was.
Yeah, I just don't see much evidence of that.
Exactly. I'm just giving the benefit of the doubt to the 30% of the tribe that voted for her. But ultimately, if the majority say so, I'm going to agree.
Josh, who did you have for best player of the episode?
I actually thought it was pretty close just because there wasn't a whole lot here. I did really like how Mick handled being voted the leader in that entire situation, completely opposite of the way that Russell did on the other tribe. He was able to shed it and just kind of take the label completely off of him from what we're able to see so far. But that's just going to give him an honorable mention for me. I'm going to end up giving it to Betsy just because... She handled the situation with Russell really well. Her one-on-one conversation with him basically just did let's make an alliance, even if you're not going to completely stick to it. Put on a good face in front of the person that you're talking to. And then she even talked a little hesitantly about him behind his back to Natalie. So props to her for that, whereas everyone else handled the situation poorly. So I'm going to give it to Betsy.
See, I would have given it to either Betsy or Nick, because I think you're right on all your points.
Mick.
What did I say?
I think you said Mick.
Betsy or Mick. But the thing with both of them is they both voted incorrectly.
And I know that, and since it's the first vote and everything was kind of just like whatever, I don't think that it's a vote that is drawing like alliance lines or tribal lines or anything like that. So that's why I didn't dock it enough.
I'm going to go with Russell Swan because he was put in a crappy position, leaned into it, did a pretty good job so far. I would have given it to Mick or Betsy, like I said, but because of the vote, I'm going to go with Russell. He got everyone in his tribe happy except one person, but, tough hand dealt. I think he did pretty well with that hand.
I agree with everything Ryan said. And I always try to give benefit to what I determine to be the stronger tribe because it sets you up for a more successful or maybe breezier trip through the pre-merge. And Galoo definitely feels like a more cohesive tribe, because they're not burning socks and dumping out canteens and yelling at each other. At least not in front of each other's faces. So,
not yet.
Great. So Russell Swan was also my best.
Josh, how about worst player?
So similar to how you couldn't give it to Betsy or Mick because they didn't vote for the right person, I can't give it to Russell because of the way that he handled the leadership position. He handled it well for the short term, but really embracing the leadership role almost never works out in the long term.
Yep.
So great. It's going to get you through probably the first couple of episodes as long as things run fairly smoothly. But after that, leaders can just be a terrible tag to have. So I'm going to give Russell actually an honorable dismention.
Dishonorable mention.
An honorable dismention.
We're not going to message him.
Dishonorable mention because of that. But I'm actually just going to give it to John because he seemed to really annoy everyone on his tribe and just had essentially no social awareness.
Yeah, it's John for exactly what Josh said.
Agreed, and then he was terrible in the reward challenge, comparatively at least.
Yes.
I don't know if I could have beaten him. I actually think I could have, at least before the accident. I think I 100% could have because I'm actually a good swimmer. But John, comparative to Jason, was terrible.
It felt like comparing someone to Ozzy in the water. Maybe not to that extent, but like he didn't have a chance.
Well, I'm as good as Ozzy in the water, probably.
Are you?
Oh, probably.
Probably. Let's get into some winner picks. Derek, who is your winner pick?
I think last season, didn't we have a 90-minute premiere? 41 we did.
41, we had a 90-minute or 2-hour premiere.
Yeah.
2 hour for
So, like, we got to
41.
know everybody, right? Everyone, we got to see the
A
game.
lot.
We got to see everyone's game that they wanted to play, how they plan on implementing that strategy, how alliances are shaking out. We got to see all that information. But we don't get almost any of that. We know that Russell has some sort of conversation with everybody on his tribe, and he's leaning on the strength of the quote-unquote dumbass girl alliance. I don't really like any of that, and we don't get to see any of it. That being said, I did pick a finalist from each tribe based on pretty much edit alone, because we don't really have anything else to go off of. I ended up falling on Betsy on Foa because she was the only one to see through Russell's ruse, but at least she said something to the camera in confessional like, I'll go with him for now, but I'm wary of him, and I know that I can't go to the end with him, yada, 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 or at least this was all inherent to what she was saying. Like, I can't trust him, but, let's work together, right? Sign of a good player, or at least a savvy one. So Betsy from Foa. And the other one, we didn't get to know Galoo really at all, other than Shambo and Russell, and I'm not going to go with either of them. So I went with the first overall confessional of the season, which is Brett. We saw him very little, but he was in the background enough when we were with Galoo that I was like, you know what, if you're going on the rewatch and you see the winner just periodically showing up in the first episode a little bit under the cover, Brett would fit the bill there. So I ended up falling on Brett because I didn't want to go with Betsy on Foa. That tribe is an absolute mess, and I was never going to take a winner pick from them.
Josh?
So this is the first season, like I said, where I had started finally taking some semblance of notes. Nothing really at all except for my winner picks. But that means that I actually do have a record of who my people are written down, so I can't change it and lie. A couple of people that I really liked, there were only 3 of them. Like Derek, I really liked Betsy, basically just because of her one confessional and one other conversation that she had in the premiere. I also liked Brett for his essentially one confessional and just showing up here and there. But I'm going to go with a little bit more under the radar than that, and I'm going to go with Liz. Liz, I really liked a couple of things. Like, she seemed really savvy, even though she was stereotyped as the smart person. She, in her confessional, because she was Asian, it's not like she had vocalized that at all. And she talked a little bit about her tribe, and it seems like she'd be a very self-aware Survivor player, and I really like that. So it's kind of grasping at straws here, but I'm going to go with Liz.
I didn't like anybody when 10th grade Ryan watches except Russell Swan. So I picked Russell Swan. And you know what? It's a fine pick considering how little we get. I know, typically don't want to go into the leadership position, but considering what we were given, screw it. I'm picking Russell Swan. Modern day Ryan's picking Russell Swan because what do you want from me here, Survivor editors?
Ryan and making like the Rupert or Andrew Savage or Terry Dietz or...
2 words, baby. Tom Westman.
Yeah, congratulations. 1 out of 41. I guess I don't know all of them, but
One
whatever.
out of 18.
Yeah, 1 out of 18 thus far.
We know Russell Swan doesn't win this season, so that's 1 out of 19.
1
now.
out of 19.
But he didn't get voted out.
That's true.
If that hadn't happened, he would have won.
Oh, yep, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
Hunch.
Episode 2, Taking Candy from a Baby. Russell Hantz and Betsy no longer trust each other, and Betsy is very vocal about it.
And this is following the vote.
Yep, this is right after the next day after Tribal Council. They talk about how Betsy doesn't trust Russell anymore openly, and it's like, oh no, Betsy, what have you done? Derek,
You gotta keep the secret, man.
you made the right move.
Yeah, it was about 5 minutes into episode 2 when I was like, ooh,
Quick fall from grace.
dodged that bullet. In our Survivor League, I would have been in trouble.
Russell Hantz has a theory, and this is a big deal. He thinks he can find an idol clue or an idol without a clue. So he came up to the conclusion like, hey, the idols are gonna have like a landmark near them. Like they're gonna be by a landmark. Okay, that logically makes sense.
You hear that today
Yep.
even now.
And he's the first person to point this out. And he's like, I'm gonna go find the idol. And there's the tree with like a big old hole in it near camp. And he's like, and he gets the idol. Makes it look easy. It's like taking candy from a baby.
Okay, there's a really famous story. I believe it was at like the University of Tennessee or something like that. A kid wrote a paper on the creation of a logistics company that could do it better than the United States Postal Service. He was given a C- on that paper because the professor said that idea was not feasible. That guy became the founder of like FedEx or UPS. It was one of the two. I can't remember the story.
remember.
I feel like Russell Hams being like, you know what? I can find idols without clues. Any professor of Survivor through 18 seasons would have probably told you, no, you get a C. That is a really bad strategy.
You have an entire island here you have to search.
And it's going to get you voted out because you're drawing attention to yourself. That's a really bad move. And then Russell went out and founded UPS.
In the middle of the camp, while everyone is watching, and the only person who noticed is because Russell told him he was going to do it, which is Jason, which that was the bad move. But, like, this is a game-changing moment of Survivor. This changes everything.
It changes Survivor forever.
And we're not done with what's going to happen with this season and how much it changes things.
Most memorable moment number 2 for the pre-merge.
He tells Jason about the idol, and they form an alliance. I don't love that he tells Jason. I like that he forms an alliance, but yeah, don't, especially nowadays, post-season 41 especially, do not tell anyone you have an idol.
Especially post-season 41.
Less of a big deal in season 19. Don't do it.
I'm fine with the move. Generally, I would say keep it to yourself so people don't know. But if you want to try and solidify a bond back in the era of Survivor before production forced you to spill all of your secrets all the time, season 41, it's not so bad to use that kind of thing to your advantage to solidify a bond. Like, hey, I understand that I come across as untrustworthy. All I can do is give you everything I have, show you all my cards, and then keep an ace up your sleeve. That's what he's doing. He's saying, Jason, listen, if nothing else, I do trust you enough to, like, you could blow up my game with this. Please don't.
I just want to throw out here, I really like Jason a lot. I just want to throw that up while I can.
He's such a likable person.
He's one of my favorite people at this point in the season.
I feel like he might be like the overall nicest, if not maybe second nicest, because Russell Swan seems just like the nicest guy in the world too.
Jason and Russell, they're definitely my two favorite from the pre-merge.
Agreed.
I think they're the two best for sure. Immunity challenge, and a very infamous one known as Schmergen Brawl. It will get run twice total in Survivor this season and one more season. Both times people get hurt. It has since been banned. It is on the banned list because yikes.
I mean, it was essentially free-for-all rugby with no rules. It was like full-body contact Calvin ball.
It gets very physical. Ben ends up getting ejected for tripping.
Even though, like, they call it tripping, he actually, like, stomped on the guy's, like, Achilles.
Yeah, it
like,
wasn't great.
It was awful.
So Ben gets himself thrown out of a challenge. Jeff makes a big deal. First time ever happened. It's like, Jeff, I know we don't want to talk about Survivor Thailand.
But, like, do you not remember when Rob with 2 Bs strangled Clay on a balance beam?
Do you remember when Suk Jai had 4 people yeeted out of the challenge? This is not the first time.
I laughed when he's like, this is for the first time ever. For the first time ever, we're going to be talking about later at Tribal even. And I'm like, no. Rob with 2 Bs exists. I still think about that sometimes. Clay's face when he's getting strangled.
Classic.
Classic.
Classic even. So Galoo wins reward and immunity. They end up getting fishing gear and a twist. The leader, Russell Swan, gets to send one person from his tribe to go live with Foa for a couple days, and this person will get to go to tribal council and witness and like gather information. So he's going to send someone, I guess he was close to Yasmin. They're the 2 black people on their tribe, so, you know, there's a bond there. I think I've heard Russell say that in interviews. So that makes sense. Send someone you're close to gather information. That's a good move.
Sure, someone that you trust.
Is this the first time that we're seeing this kind of twist? It's hard for me to remember at this point.
Survivor China, they got to kidnap people. But
Yep,
the other tribe got
But as far as like viewing tribals and kind of going down that path,
we had a little bit of it, like a 1-episode twist of it in Cook Islands, where they got to kidnap Nate.
And then they also did kidnapping in Pearl Islands as well.
So they've done it, but this is the first like pre-merge long time they've done it, because it's all going to happen multiple times, which is cool. You know, hey, that's a decent enough twist. I like it.
I do not mind this one. It's one that just creates information across tribes, but not too much to make it ridiculous.
doesn't break the game.
No. Unfortunately, Mike Barassi got freaking wrecked during this challenge, and he ends up getting pulled from the game due to low blood pressure. So Mike Barassi was originally going to be on, I can't remember if it was Gabon or Tocantins, one of those two, and he couldn't pass the physical background, like the medical check, and couldn't pass. Don't know how he passed it for this one, because I don't think he should have been on Survivor.
Yeah, he doesn't. Even in the premiere, like you can tell, like he's not in the greatest shape. And like, you don't have to be, everyone doesn't have to be athletic to be on Survivor, but
healthy is good.
Yeah.
Now we get into something I don't like, because we've had situations before where people get evacuated from the game and pulled, and then that cancels Tribal Council. They lost someone. Well, Fofo is going to go to Tribal Council anyway, so they're going to lose 2 people in one episode, which I'm not a fan of. I don't like that Survivor made them go to Tribal Council, but somebody else out. I thought that was too much. They already lost Mike due to this kind of BS challenge. That's too much, so I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I agree, but what can we do?
And how close was it to Tribal?
Well, he got yanked out from the game right after the challenge. Like, they hadn't even left the area. While going fishing, Shambo loses part of the snorkel and does not catch anything.
Oof.
And she goes into camp. This is so good. You want the good news or the bad news? Bad news. I lost part of the snorkel. What's the good news? There's lots of fish in the ocean.
Did you catch any of them, Shambo?
She didn't go to the ocean. She went to like a bog or something like that.
Yeah, she was in the swamp area.
There are 400,000 fish in the reef.
Thanks.
Can't wait to catch them.
And now we're getting into the part of where Survivor Samoa gets a lot less fun. Yasmin comes to camp, and it starts out like just kind of like surreal, because she is so condescending and insulting to the Fofoa tribe. She's like, guys, I'm here to help you get better. This isn't fun. You know, we're beating up, and it's like taking candy from baby. I want like a real challenge. You guys can talk to me. We can strategize. We can figure out a way to get you guys this crap together. It's
and by the way, so I'm watching this episode with my wife. She was watching with me, and she's like, Yasmin, worst player of the episode.
Ben stands up and says, hold my beer.
This gets so bad so fast.
The good news is we can give out 2 worst players of the episode for this episode, because we got an evac and a vote.
Hadn't even thought about that, but well deserved and warranted.
So she pulls Ben aside because she didn't like how Ben played the challenge, because he like tackled her at one point, and she said that's not okay because she's a girl, he's a guy. And to Ben's credit, for a brief moment, very brief moment, that wasn't against the rules, and she was attacking his teammate. Ben played by the rules at that point. That is not the problem with Ben, and I think Yasmin was not justified in being mad at him for that. And here we go. So they get into a big fight, and then he gets personal and
racial,
like not outright. He doesn't say like the N-word or anything like that, but a lot of the stuff he says is like, bro, are you being racist when you say that, or are you just super ignorant?
Well, and Jason says this exact thing to him. Are these things racially charged, or are you just super ignorant? And then he's like, I'm not ignorant. It's like, okay, well, you just used process of elimination on yourself.
Thanks.
It's one of the two. But yeah, it gets personal. It gets gross. It's, kind of classist, I guess. You're basically calling her like ghetto trash.
No, that is what he said.
And a bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah.
Yikes, dude. Yikes. Not great. And very ugly.
And like, there are times in Survivor history where some non-politically correct, non-2022 things are said. And we say, oh, that's a product of the times. Go back to season 1, and they're dropping, the 3-letter F word multiple times.
Yep.
Right? That's not okay. There was something with it back then where it was not as bad as it is today. This is 2009, and this would have been bad no matter when you said it.
Oh, yeah.
Like whenever this term originated, it was always that bad.
I can't remember if it was this episode or the next episode, but Stephen Fishback used to give out the Fishy Award every episode for like best play of the episode, basically. And it was one of these two where he's like, nope, no fishy, anti-fishy, and gave it to Ben, I believe. Just like, nope, nuh-uh, this is terrible. And then Ben makes it even worse. He keeps everyone up all night because he can't sleep. And he just does work all night. He's like chopping stuff with his machete. And he's just the worst. Arguably, potentially in the conversation for worst social game of all time.
Ooh.
Every player, stack them up by social game, Ben might be dead last.
Bottom tier for sure. I don't know. No one comes to mind.
I never keep track of the worst social game players of all time because they're always gone so quickly.
Sometimes they make it to the end.
But I can tell you he is in my lowest tier of likability of Survivor contestants of all time. Not only do I not want him back ever, like, I wish I could forget about him.
Yeah.
But I probably won't.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And that's his fault.
This guy sucks. Betsy tries to get everyone to turn on him. I wish she had succeeded, but it's not going to work. 7 votes for Betsy, 1 vote for Ben. Unfortunately, I think it's probably the right move because Ben is a young buck, basically, and Betsy is an older woman. So to try and win, especially since he lost Mike, you got to try and save some strength of this tribe to try and bounce back. So I can't fault them for voting out Betsy. As much as I wish they'd voted out Ben, I really can't fault them too much.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say that I would have done anything different because even adding something on top of that, he's become an unlikable person that, I mean, we're way too early in the game to talk about like who you can beat at the end, but it's
Spoiler,
it's
everyone could beat this guy at the end.
But like, even if you think about just like some of the next votes, if you continue to lose, like he's someone later on that you'd be able to toss under the bus and just like, yeah, let's get rid of Ben and put the attention off of you in case that would end up happening.
I think it might be the next time that Fofo goes to Tribal, but Jeff asks Ben, do you think that you could win the game? and he says, I think I've got as good of a chance as anybody, which just points out how little self-awareness he has. I think this might be the next tribal council that they go to that he says this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bunt. I'll say that if you're strictly looking at game theory, it was right to send Betsy home. In season 42 of Survivor, Ben would be gone tonight.
Yep.
I don't think that this is a problem or a dilemma that any modern survivors will have any realistic chance of swaying toward the vote of a Betsy anymore. I think the cast is just like, no, this is bigger than the game now, you're gone. He might even get pulled, depending on Jeff's mood. And I wouldn't be against it.
So, in season 42, if you're playing, go with whatever the tribe wants to do. The tribe is going to want to vote out the Ben. Here's the good news. I don't think we'll ever get a person like Ben on Survivor again.
And if they do, they are very, very manipulative and just rotten to the core.
Yeah. So go with whatever way the tribe's going here. If they want to get rid of Ben for his toxic attitude, then fine. But I think on paper, Betsy's the right move. We can give out 2 best and worst players of the episode because we lose 2 people here. I know you two don't always go along with that, but I like to do it. And I edit this, so I get to make that call.
I only change the opinion when it's things like a Medivac. Like, it feels different for Medivacs.
So we have 2. I'm giving out 2. For my best, I have first Jason, and the second one is Russell. They made an alliance together. Jason learned about the idol. Russell found the idol. And they both were part of the alliance to eliminate Betsy. So I got Jason and Russell for my best.
If I were to give out 2, it would go to Russell and Jason, and I think it would be in that order. I ended up only assigning 1, and it was to Russell for being the first ever contestant to find an idol without a clue. That wins you best player of the episode, assuming that you don't squander it and go home. So as long as he was still standing at the end of the episode, he was going to get it for being an innovative, history-making Survivor player.
And so Josh's role, because Josh only watches the premiere, the merge episode, and the finale. He doesn't watch all the other episodes. He is our tiebreaker. And so Derek and I have to present our arguments. Fortunately for us, Josh doesn't get to do anything this time. Derek and I are on the same page.
I would still like to say that my opinion in this case would probably only be to give it to Russell just because it sounds like, and I remember the situation, but it sounds like Jason was really just in the right place at the right time and not necessarily like being a good player for that.
Had the social game to make that connection with Russell.
Yeah, he did not see him get the idol. It was just he told him about it afterward, and it was Russell's plan to do so. So it wasn't just him being in the right place. The whole tribe was standing around Russell when he found the idol.
And so Jason saw him digging for it and was like assuming he was going for it. So.
Right.
Worst players, again, we can give out 2. Ben and Yasmin. Ben, enough said. Yasmin, enough said.
If you just watch the episode, you'll know that there are, in fact, 2 worst players. Ben is going to be number 1. Yeah. Like, sometimes I'd say, 1A and 1B. No. Ben is number 1.
Yeah. If there wasn't a Medivac this episode, you'd still have a very clear number 1.
Yeah. And Yasmin is number 2. Both of these are exactly how you don't play Survivor. It's just one of them is awful on a game and personal level.
Yeah. Yeah. Yasmin just awful on a game level.
Yes.
Thumbs up from Josh.
Also, I'd like to make the proclamation that Ben can no longer win the game.
I think that's fair. I think we can. Josh, you're the person who's very anti-declaring people can no longer win the game. What do you think?
Now, I will say there's a lot of time left in this game for other people to come out as racist.
For posterity's sake, you have to say that.
Everyone in this game is racist.
Now, will he be able to pass anyone? No, but can someone go below him? Possibly. Never say never.
God, yeah. There's always room to get worse.
Yep. Right as you think you can dig down a deep enough hole, someone just has 1 shovel deeper.
All he needs to find is 2 more racists and go to the end. Who's the most likable racist? Just cancel Survivor at that point.
Oh, no.
God.
Luckily, that is not what happens.
Hallelujah. Episode 3, it's called a Russell Seed. So Jason and Mick both want Ben out next because Jason's kind of pissed at like some of the racial stuff. Fair. And Mick's like, yeah, that was terrible. I'm also with you. On Galoo, a bunch of the Galoo members are doing yoga, which annoys Shambo. Shambo, just go do some yoga.
Why?
I feel like she needs to do some yoga and unwind a little bit.
All right, so here's a little bit more backstory, a little inside baseball on why Shambo has problems with Galoo, and it all comes down to one person, that is Laura. Laura is extremely conservative Christian, and I've heard rumors that she is fairly homophobic. Shambo is lesbian. There you go. Shambo doesn't like Laura.
Was Laura the one leading yoga?
Yeah. So they don't really get into it much. So that is why there's Shambo and Laura don't get along.
Also fair.
Makes sense.
If so, bad on Laura.
Yeah. Very bad on you. And I can't blame Shambo for not wanting to spend any time with her whatsoever. Russell Hantz tells Ben that Ashley was gunning for him in the previous episode. And he goes and confronts her, stirs up some drama. Ashley's trying to figure out who the heck told Ben I was after him. And Ben's like, I'm not going to say who it was, but it wasn't Russell.
I swear.
That is not the question that I asked you.
All right. Russell, you got lucky.
Where are the drugs? I'll tell you where they're not. They're not in the trash can in the park. They're definitely not there.
I don't think many of these people watched Survivor before the season started. Galoo wins immunity. Again.
Control C, Control V.
Yep. Russell Swan gets to make a choice for the reward. He gets to choose between comfort, pillows, blankets, that kind of stuff, or function, which includes a tarp.
So, for everyone who's been following along for, I guess now 18 and a half seasons of our Rewind, and I'm sure every time this has come up in a current season discussion, you always take the function, because the second that it rains, your comfort items are worthless. We already saw this happen. But I think this might be the most glaring example of instant karma in the history of reward choices in Survivor history.
Oh, God. It's horrible, but kind of funny.
And so sweet.
Because Russell is going to say, we got to take care of the ladies. I come from a family where, we have to provide for our women and we have to, make them comfortable. And I don't have my wife and daughter out here to take care of. So, I'm going to get some pillows and some blankets for the women of our tribe. That's why I did it. If it was me, I'd get the function, but I gotta take the comfort. So I was like, so did you just
It came from a good place, I guess.
Did you just pass the buck to people who didn't actually have any say, nor did you ask them their opinion?
Why are you blaming the women?
Yeah.
Now, in his defense, Kelly, Monica, Laura, and Yasmin all want the comfort.
And so that was correct, but every single guy is
and
like...
Shambo.
And Shambo's like, bro, there's a tarp. Why?
You pissed off 5 of them and made 4 of them happy. And those 4 are all going to change their tune pretty soon on what the right move there was.
Absolutely. Get the tarp.
It could have been just the tarp and the comfort, and you still take the tarp. There was other stuff with the function, but Russell's going to pick comfort. And everyone is pissed. He sends Shambo to 4-4 and mix it up, send someone else, and, someone who isn't super popular in the tribe. Sure. Fine pick.
I honestly think that Shambo is either the best pick or the worst pick. Because if your tribe continues to dominate, it doesn't matter if Shambo flips, and then you're not ostracizing anyone else in the tribe. Cool. But I almost think it's too close. You might not want to send someone who's most likely to flip out of the tribe to another tribe to make friends. I'm okay with it here.
Here's the thing. With Shambo's edit, it seems like the guys in general like her a lot more than the women do.
That's true.
So, maybe Shambo and Russell still get along fine. Unclear. But yeah, just basically, I think the rule of thumb here is don't send the same person twice.
Sure.
I think that's probably the best way to go.
Honestly, they should have had discussions about this beforehand.
Yeah. Does anybody want to go? Yeah. Pass the buck off.
A little preparation goes a long way in a crisis situation.
And maybe they did.
Maybe they did. Fofo and Shambo get along fantastically. Everyone seems to like her.
A little too fantastic.
A little too well. They all get along great. It's wonderful. It's a match made in paradise.
We can't wait till we're together.
Not foreshadowing.
Russell and Mick make an alliance. Russell shows Mick the idol. He's just whipping that idol out to anyone.
Yeah.
Not great.
Swing it around.
Remember, last episode when he said, I wasn't going to tell nobody.
But then he tells everyone, you gotta put that ego aside, man. I know it feels good to show off, but you gotta let go.
I'm not so sure that Russell has that capability, but we'll find out.
And I mean, we're still early enough on in the world of having an idol in Survivor that people still fully don't know what just the best practice for to approach an idol is. So this still is fine.
At this point, the book has not been written on idle game theory yet. We're still figuring it out.
Starting to. The first couple of chapters are being written.
And I will say, if he's... Because, I mean, just earlier this episode, we saw Mick and Jason go off and have a conversation. If Russell is feeling like Mick and Jason are getting closer, maybe he wants to bring Mick into the fold before Jason has a chance to spill his guts. You know?
So fine, in season 19, don't do this anymore.
Yeah.
If season 42 on, do not do this.
Keep everything to yourself.
After the knowledge is power advantage, never tell anyone about your idol.
So Russell and Liz want Ashley out because she has kind of proven herself to be the weakest person left in this tribe. Jason refuses and tells everyone he will quit the game if they don't vote out Ben. He says, in confessional, he says that he won't actually do that, but he likes to think, like, to put the fear of God into him a little bit. Is this the best Survivor move? No, I don't care because it's awesome. It makes me love Jason. You know, sometimes you got to take a stand, and you know, it's important to know Jason is black. He's taking a stand, and this is early. You know, this is not season 41. This is season 19. It's a little different, and the fact that he does this is a baller move. Again, probably not the best Survivor move, but again, I don't care because it's so cool, and it makes me love Jason and really root for him because this is like standing up for what's right, and I love it.
It's one of those things where it was ahead of its time. It was kind of like, you know, not to reference a movie that just came out with, you know, Spielberg's West Side Story, but the original story of West Side Story addressed racism way before that was kind of a cool thing, back in, you know, during the civil rights era, right? Mm-hmm. Jason is doing this on reality television, back when reality television didn't really care about this as much.
The only time we've gotten it before was Sean Rector, also great.
Yep.
And Cook Islands, yikes.
And Cook Islands, which, like, again... The cast on Cook Islands handled that so well. It was the theme that was yikes, right? Yep. Jason was absolutely awesome here. And also on a tribe that has like a Mick and a Russell and all these people who want to drive all of these things. For Jason to basically, you know, for a game move, drive this. This is his move no matter what. People can't take it away from him. And even if, you know, he is bluffing and people, let's say they call his bluff and Ashley goes home, it's still his move to make. He succeeded. And I like it from both a resume standpoint and like a... this is the right thing to do standpoint. So, all around.
Some things are more important than winning Survivor. And for Jason, this is it. And I'm not going to fault him for that at all.
I think he says to Jeff, some things aren't worth $1 million. And this is not $1 million. $1 million is not worth more than this to me. So, I was very impressed. It was really cool.
Looking outside of just like the race aspect of it, if something else comes up in a future season, like, do you think that could ever actually... because this worked.
Yep.
Could that ever actually be used in a different way? Like, if you are so important to like a core alliance and they don't want to lose you because that really hurts their numbers, do you think that could ever work as a way to sway the group?
It almost like the opposite kind of worked with... it kind of worked with Chet, even though Chet wanted to get voted out. Like, he's like, no, I'm not going to help. You know, they're like, you can just quit after. We'll vote someone out and then you can quit. He's like, no, vote me out.
I don't want to.
So, like, the opposite was Chet, kind of.
I think in modern Survivor, because, I mean, spoiler, we're not going to get a tribe swap this season. No. It's another one of, I guess, the few since season 3 where we end up with no tribe swap in the pre-merge. In a season 42 or 43, where we're probably going to have tribe swaps where the numbers get evened out or reset in some capacity, I don't know that threatening to quit the game if you don't get your way is the best way to do it. And depending on the circumstances, it might just come across as like a toddler move. Like, wham, I don't get my way, cry. I know a little bit about small children crying for no reason. Or over-exaggerating certain things that happen.
But in this specific instance where race is involved...
yes.
And it's great. Tribal Council, Jason calls Ben out on all of his crap. And
to his face.
Ben's like, I'm not racist. Well, Jason's like, all right, if you truly believe what you were saying is not racist, then you really are ignorant. It's one of the two.
Congrats. You are confirming that you are either one or the other.
Take your pick. 6 votes for Ben, 1 vote for Ashley. 100% the right move at this point.
At this point, it's sowing division in the tribe, and tribe unity is more important because not every single challenge in Survivor is going to be physical.
He hasn't had one yet.
You need to have teamwork at some point.
And you still have Russell and Jason and
Mick.
And Mick.
Yeah.
Like, It's not like you're extremely short on strength.
And it should be noted here that Russell did not want to send Ben home.
Yep.
He wanted to keep him around because
A rotten meat shield.
a rotten meat shield.
But even Russell's like, I gotta let him go.
Russell's like, no. Because, I mean, they definitely focused on Jason, but it really seemed like everybody was rubbed the wrong way. And as soon as the tide started to shift, everyone was like, yeah, you know what? We're just going to stand out of the way. I am not burning down my game for Ben, as nobody should.
Yeah, it seemed like Ashley, Mick, and Natalie all couldn't stand him either, so.
Oh, and by the way, I just wanted to note, I believe my least favorite player in Survivor history up through 18 seasons was Rob with 2 Bs.
Oh, really?
It is he now surpassed. It is Ben. And I was informally tracking this, so I do not have a list. It's just that's the last time that I made note of this. Ben is worse than Rob, and I actually don't even think it's close because at least Rob had redeeming moments, and you can see him trying to like grow as a person, and some things were just coming from the wrong place. But I still really didn't like him. Everything about Ben was just the worst.
Ben has no redeeming qualities, and that's rare for a Survivor contestant.
So he is my least favorite Survivor contestant, and I never want to see or hear from him again unless he has had a complete change of heart, and I don't know the answer to that question.
Nope. Haven't seen or heard a word from him since the reunion show.
There you go.
So, yeah, right move.
Bye.
Derek, who do you got for best player?
So for best, I ended up actually saying Russell Hands, and it's because even though Jason's move worked, I think it was from a game perspective, especially in season 19, where we're not in this era of, woke is kind of a derogatory term. I don't mean for it to come across like that, but we're not in like this woke era of Survivor where there are issues that are above the game, right? Everything is still a tool on the tool belt or something that can be used to arm or disarm someone else's game. This might paint a target on Jason's back where people are like, he is not willing to work through adverse events. He's not willing to work with people who are different from him. And I don't necessarily like that on the whole. I love the move. I love it, especially looking at it in 2022. I love that it worked. But I think Russell's ability to be like, you know what? Even though this is not so great for my long-term game, in the short-term game, this is absolutely necessary. I'm going to let it happen. And it worked for everyone on the tribe to move forward. I just think that it was in Russell Hands' least strategic interest long-term, but it works really well for short-term. So I gave it to Russell.
I ended up going with Mick. He made that alliance with Russell, learned about the idol, and he really wanted Ben gone, along with Jason. Didn't paint a target on himself and got what he wanted. So Mick is my best player.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the reason why I didn't give it to Russell is because I didn't like that Russell told Mick about the idol.
Sure.
I was going to say that was going to be my tiebreaker between the two of you. I'm going to side with Ryan, mostly because of that. I understand why he would have done it, just if you guys are saying that Mick and Jason were becoming closer, good getting ahead of it. But at the same time, that's just another person that knows.
Worst player?
So
I wish we could give it to Ben.
So, okay, I really do.
Honorable mention.
I wish we could give it to Ben,
mention.
but we were able to give a big one to Ben last episode, right? Shambo didn't want to join yoga early on in this episode. Not great. Even with a little insider baseball knowledge, still not great. Russell picked comfort over function. And not only did Derek, through editology, know that there was going to be a rainstorm coming, Derek at the time was like, oh, you pissed off more than half of your tribe for a vanity play? I'm not even sure. So it's Russell for picking comfort and irking his tribe.
100%. It's Russell Swan.
Seems pretty easy.
Yeah, easy. Episode 4, Hungry for a Win. Okay, so when the people who've been sent on the away mission to go infiltrate the other tribe, they get idol clues. They don't talk about it a whole lot because Russell has the idol.
Yeah, there's not much to do. And the idol clues are still leading them to the tree with the hole in it. It's kind of perverse in how hilarious it is.
Yeah.
So there's 2 clues in so far. Shambo has mentioned this. Yasmin, I'm sure, mentioned it. Like they're giving the clues to a clue on the other beach. Eric suspects they got to be pretty similar clues for each camp. So he asked Shambo, like, hey, I think we might be able to get the idol if the clues are the same here. And John walks in and is like, hey, Shambo, I think the clues might be the same on both beaches. So if you share them, we might be able to get the idol.
I love that he's betting on like a vertical structure being as lazy as possible. Like he's like, Survivor is a production. Productions by nature are vertical structures. Do you really think they wrote separate clues when they can just like hide the idol in the same spot on both beaches? Synergy. How would Synergy do this?
And we're going to see this pop up a couple more times in Survivor where it's the exact same clues. Survivor Game Changers. Ty figured out the idol was at the base of the water well. Same episode, there's a tribe swap. He gets a second idol. 2 idols in one episode, I think it was. Survivor didn't learn from this, which they should. Or not. I guess I don't care. It's kind of funny.
It's kind of the same way that Russell put himself into the eyes of production. It was just like, if I were production, where would I put an idol? Just kind of thinking the same way.
Yeah, meta Survivor.
So Shambo doesn't do the rational things like, that's a good thought. I'm going to go find the idol. Bye. No, she tells them both the clues, and Eric goes and finds the idol.
This is more evidence to support that she's got a pretty open social working relationship with, I mean, at least Eric.
Yeah.
But like, as we'll see, maybe the guys in general.
So Eric has the idol for Galoo.
In its own way, also making idol finding history.
Yep.
Not nearly to the extent of Russell without a clue, but like he never actually had a clue to that idol.
He got someone else to tell him.
So it's really interesting, and it wasn't even a clue for that idol. So it's just interesting.
So for the reward challenge, this I would normally skip this, but this is just kind of odd from a production standpoint. The Chiefs get to bring 2 people along with them to go on an adventure, and it turns out to be a reward challenge, a game of bocce ball, but Jeff's not there. They have to run it themselves. I didn't mind it.
Well, you kind of missed the part about it that was the most funny, because at the beginning, they're both just standing on opposite ends of the circle, just like waiting for the other guy to draw, or like waiting for the other tribe to draw. And then all of a sudden they just start running. One of them rips open a box. Shambo's got 1 chicken in each hand by the neck, just like, these are my chickens. And then like Russell pulls out the note like, okay. This is a fair fight. Put the chickens down, Shambo. 1 in each hand.
Production's just sitting there like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
The camera guys are just like, where's Jeff? Film it.
So was Jeff just sick this day, or he just didn't want to do it?
Well, I mean, they've done this before where they've had like just hostless challenges, and it always feels weird.
It's always a little weird.
Like, because it's only happened a couple of times.
Yeah, I think in literally 2 seasons they've done it.
I did take note that Jeff had a hoarse voice at that coming tribal, so he may have been sick. I don't know.
That'd just be so weird.
Weird. Anyway, Galoo wins. This is another really funny moment. So they get back to camp. Shambo's designated chicken wrangler. She's going to take care of the chickens, and she lets one escape.
Classic.
And they're trying to chase it. It's just like a little moment. Eric's trying to get it, and he gets clotheslined by their clothesline. I still see that one in my head.
I can see it right now.
Great visual. And then he throws like a little tantrum. I can't even describe the body movements he makes after they realize the chicken has got away, where he's just like flailing wildly about how angry he is about chicken got away. And that one lives rent free in my head too, just picturing Eric. It's just like a very human moment of just like,
it's like someone grabbed a Woody doll from behind and started like shaking them vigorously into a camera frame.
Flailing like crazy. It's really funny.
And I don't remember who had the quote, but someone was like, you would have suspected that something with wings can fly a little bit, and apparently Shambo didn't know that. So funny.
So Fo wins immunity.
Hey.
The first and only one they're going to win this season.
Look at you. You did it. Gold star.
Legendary tribe.
Jason really helped because they had to stack blocks, and Jason's super tall. So Monica is blamed for the loss because she was very slow on like the rope bridge portion of it. She didn't look that slow. I think they blew it out of proportion a little bit.
I think they're severely underselling how fast Russell skirted across that rope. Like, yeah, I know that Monica lost distance relative to her competitor on the other side, but Russell, like, scurried, kind of undersells it. He was across that thing fast.
Low center of gravity. So Russell, Swan, Eric, Shambo, and Yasmin, they're all pissed at Monica's poor performance in the challenge, and they want her out. Okay.
It really feels like we're honing in on one thing here, and you're looking for a reason, which as good as any, as good as any, with no other deciding factors.
But everyone else wants Yasmin out because she does literally no work around camp. She just lays around.
And her reasoning is, I don't want to get in the way. People get mad if you do something the wrong way, yada, yada, yada. That's not, there's a happy medium here where you are a regular contributor. You maybe adopt a few tasks as your own that you always do. You're not always just playing freelance on your tasks.
You can collect firewood.
And then she, I think, gets mad like, have you ever asked me to do something? I've done everything you've asked me to. That's like such a 13-year-old response.
Yep. Like, okay, great, but you need to be able to do more than just what you're asked to. It's like how I assume marriage works, where it's not like, you don't just wait for your spouse to ask you to do something. You take some initiative and do it too. Yeah, you can't just wait to be asked to everything.
Yeah. Some good life advice.
It's because, and the other thing is like when you're on a functional tribe, we always say as adults, don't ever play mom to someone unless it's like the positive aspects. Like no one wants a parent. Don't tell someone what to do on Survivor. But she's like, no, I want you to tell me what to do. I'm subverting your expectations. Please tell me what to do. And they're like, no, that's a bad move because the second we tell you what to do, you're going to go talk trash about me to someone else. In a weird way, it's high IQ Survivor to let her dig her own grave
100%.
by not telling her what to do. So that way, when you start saying Yasmin does nothing around camp, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because no one's asking her to do anything.
And you'll be pissed about it. You can all talk trash behind her back about it, and then you can vote her out. 8 votes for Yasmin, 2 for Monica. Eric and Russell, they kind of realized, we can't save Yasmin. We'll just join up and vote out Monica. So Shambo is the only person who votes incorrectly. This is a fine move just because if Yasmin's really bringing down the energy around camp and not really contributing much, and you got that many people on board, fine. You're even destroying Fofo. It's not like it's close, so it's a fine move. Whatever the majority wants, just go with it.
I've got no problem with the move. Either one would have been fine, and I would have been like, okay, I'm just going to trust the tribe on this one. Because, again, they haven't been to tribal yet. So
it's like their first episode.
Yep. So, like,
it's the perfect anyone but me.
Wherever the tribal lines are drawn, fantastic. Just try your best not to be on the wrong side of it. Shambo.
For best player, I'm going to give it to Eric. He got Shambo to give him the clues. He found the idol, and then he decided to go along with the numbers to take out Yasmin.
Yep. Just focusing more on that right side of the vote because he was originally on team vote out Monica and was like, you know what? Nope, can't save her. Yasmin's got to go. So I agree with Eric.
Works for me.
Worst player is Shambo. She gave away idol clues. She lost the chicken, and she ended up being on the wrong side of the vote. Pretty much a perfect storm of terribleness for Shambo. A chicken storm, if you will.
Yeah, exactly the reasons that I wrote down. It's Shambo.
Cool. Josh, you have to agree with us.
I am essentially worthless at this point.
We clipped your wings.
Oh.
That chicken can't fly.
Episode 5, Walking on Thin Ice. We get the Gross Food Rewards Challenge, which Ashley loses for Foa. Tough one, though.
I will say, it was seawater and sea slug guts.
Ugh.
And I know that they were probably doing this for everybody and the audio just cut it out, but they were really focusing on Galoo going, oh my God, looks so
gross. Bleh.
I'm sorry if anyone out there in the listening group has like a reflux reaction where if people make puking noises, you do too. Don't watch this episode maybe, or at least skip the first 20 minutes of it because like they really hammed it up and it worked. So, good for them.
I think combining like salt water with basically anything is going to make it so difficult just to swallow whatever you have.
Galoo wins a feast, but Russell has to send someone to the tribe, and they have to miss the feast. So, big bummer. He sends Shambo. This is a bad call. His reasoning is that, she lost the group of chicken. Okay, but you can't send someone again. She's been already. All you're going to do is drive her away from the group, and you might need her. You send Laura, Kelly, or John, 3 of whom who did not compete in the challenge. So you pick one of those 3. You send Monica for blowing the last moon challenge, or you're like, hey, we're going to draw rocks, and one of us, or draw sticks, and one of us is going to miss this. And put yourself in there, too, just in case. Yeah, pushing Shambo's pissed, too. You do not send Shambo on this one. This is a bad move.
Well, and not only does it alienate her even more, but like it's almost the opposite of whatever our mantra is for exile. You don't want to send multiple people to exile, so you know where, if there is a clue or any sort of advantage, you know where it's at. With this, you want to do the exact opposite, so that you don't have one relationship grow stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yep. Russell and Dave get into a fight about making the fire. They just because Russell's not pulling it off, and basically Russell's like, why don't you do it then? And then Dave does it pretty quickly.
And Dave does apologize for being a little bit childish about it because Dave says something like, no, I'm not going to do it until the leader asks me to do it because he's being too proud to ask for help because he always wants to do everything. And so someone's like, well, Dave, why don't you just do it? He's like, nope, got to hear it from the leader. And then Russell was just like, and then off screen somewhere was like, fine. Dave builds the fire, and then you know what they do? They talk it out like adults, and everything is okay. Just a little moment of drama. We haven't had anything to look at on Galoo other than Russell making questionable leadership decisions and Shambo being like Shambo.
I'm surprised you're able to remember their names.
It's tough sometimes.
It is.
Derek, you'll be pleased to know this Kelly that we're talking about is not Purple Kelly.
Makes sense.
It's not Purple Kelly. She's on the Purple Tribe. Her name's Kelly. She's not the Purple Kelly. So that's still to come.
Because Derek knows the lore.
The lore of Purple Kelly.
He knows of her, but he doesn't know where or when to expect her.
I know the legend of Purple Kelly, but I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say there's a Kelly on this season. Really?
Yeah, the blonde one.
I can't even picture her face. Oh my goodness. Okay.
The Purple Kelly before there was a Purple Kelly, basically.
Yeah,
before her time.
The OG Purple Kelly. I don't have a single note about Kelly in anything here. Okay, anyway.
I think we've mentioned her once because she was happy Russell picked Comfort. I think that's the only time she's been mentioned so far.
Wow.
So Shambo is over on Foa, and she's like, guys, I'm going to share all my clues with you guys. Now, does she suspect the idol's already gone and just wants to, like, blow things up? And then, but also at the same time, build a social bond. Okay, if you think the idol's gone, cool.
Yeah.
I think that might be giving Shampoo too much credit. I think she just did it.
You know, if someone goes and does something amazing and they didn't mean to do it,
Yep.
you still get the credit. Like if you guess on a multiple choice test and you get every answer right, guess what that's going into the gradebook as? 100. So maybe she was playing 3D chess. I don't know.
It causes a little bit of conflict. Liz suspects Russell Hantz is the idol and confronts him about it, and he denies it and he gets pretty pissed off.
I will say it was nice to understand from Fofo's perspective that Russell and Ben and Jason kind of worked out a cop-out. That Ben had found the idol,
Yep.
They knew about it, he buried it, and then got voted out.
Yep.
And it was kind of like a quasi idol flush. We're going to get rid of the guy who has an idol.
So the idol is hidden somewhere because Ben hid it somewhere.
Correct.
Which is pretty good.
That is as good an explanation as any, and especially because people are like, oh, you know, why were you so blah, blah, blah about voting out Ben at first? Oh, well, he had the idol. So we had to really make sure that we sold it. Like, it's a really good decoy. They don't touch on it a lot, but I was appreciative to see it.
I don't really remember that.
Yeah,
little thing.
and they'll pin it on him several times in the pre-merge whenever it comes up.
Yep.
For Shambo, I think a better way would just maybe, because we've seen this before, where maybe you just pull like one person to help you try to find it. Be like, hey, I found these clues, or like I was given these clues. I'm having a hard time, and maybe you can start building an alliance that way by searching for the idol together. And if you both can't figure it out and can't find it, then I think you can take the next step and start blowing it up at camp.
Sure. We're going to get nonstop rain for 2 days, and that is not going to stop. It's going to end up going for like 6 days. Something crazy. It's like the longest rainstorm in Survivor history. Just nonstop rain.
I mean, at least you have some pillows.
Oh, womp womp.
And it does not look fun.
No. And from what I hear from like basically all Survivor contestants, the worst part about Survivor is the rain. When it rains, it is the worst. And I'm someone who likes the rain, and I think this looked terrible.
You know it's bad when you go sit in the ocean to warm up. Granted, I've been places where the ocean is warm, but like when it's been raining for 5 straight days and the only way to get less wet is to get more wet, like
I can think of a couple of times in my life where I've been in water when it's raining, and it's just so weird.
Yep.
Because it's just like I don't want to get out.
So, and more inside baseball, Russell Hantz doesn't like the ocean. He's scared of the ocean. The fact that he got in the ocean because it was warmer, and the fact he doesn't like the ocean, that tells you how bad it was out there. Galoo destroys Fofo at the immunity challenge. Liz and Russell Hantz do a very good job, though. They have an admirable effort on the two of them.
Yeah, it's not their fault that the people who were the shooters on their team couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
Yeah, because it's basically a basketball challenge, and they had to hold the net up while everyone else tossed coconuts in it. They did a great job. Their shooters sucked. The big problem is, and this is another funny one, Stephen Fishback gave the fishy for this episode to the weather because the weather had such an impact. They couldn't strategize. The rain was so bad they were all just stuck in their shelter, and they all just sat there. Now, here's what actually happened, I'm sure. Because you have to go off and do confessionals. One by one, they're going to call you away before tribal council, and you're going to do confessional time. When the one person who's going home, Ashley, goes off to give her confessionals, everybody else is like, Ashley. That's 100% what happened. There was still a little bit of strategizing there, but they never had to leave the shelter to do it. But because it's a TV show, you do have to go to your confessionals.
A weather-manufactured Boston Rob buddy system.
Exactly. So I would bet a lot of money that's what happened. We never see that, but they don't talk about how you have to go do confessionals. It's like, we're so and so. They went out for a walk. They're doing confessional.
But that could have been anyone. Everyone's going to be doing confessionals, but. It's not like Russell gets up and everyone's like, Russell, want to vote on Russell? Cool, thumbs up.
I'm sure when Liz went up to go do her confessionals, Ashley's like, let's get rid of Liz. And when Ashley was gone, it's like, it's Ashley.
It's actually Ashley.
It's like, oh, we're doing that now?
No,
cool.
but for real, though.
Tribal Council, it's 5 votes for Ashley, 1 vote for Liz. I know Russell kind of wanted Liz out because she was threatening to him, but Ashley is the clear weak link in the challenge at this point, so Fofo needs to start winning.
Yeah.
If you're splitting hairs, perhaps keep the strength, and it's not like Ashley was so valuable around camp that she made up for any difference. No. So, I'm okay with the move.
Derek, who do you got for best player?
I hate it, but it's Shambo.
Oh, okay.
I have Shambo because she shared her idol clue, and whether that was to build bonds, to make the best out of a crappy situation, which she did not make for herself. Russell sent her again, and that was to Russell's demerit. She used that to build social bonds and also ended up causing a little bit of strife on the Foa camp. Even if it was completely by accident and she was not intending to make those moves, it absolutely had an effect, and I think it absolutely boosts her stock, at least temporarily. So I have Shambo. I don't like it, but I have her.
That's really interesting because I did not have Shambo. And I'm gonna give up on mine. I'm gonna switch to what you said.
Woo!
You convinced me. I originally I split it, and I hate doing this. I've done it exactly one time so far on the show. Where back in Pearl Islands, I split it between Rhino, Dara, and Tawana because there was just nothing. And this was for worst player. I just couldn't find a thing that differentiated them. And we all agreed on that one, I remember. So this time I was going to give it to Mick and Jason for voting out Ashley. It was like the best move of everyone on Fofo for those two. And I was just like, I don't have a way to distinguish between these two. It's both of them. But your Shambo pick makes a lot of sense to me, especially talking about it. It's I don't know how much she made those moves intentionally, but I think it had a good effect. So yeah, I think because she got the answer right, no matter how multiple choice, she got the answer right, no matter how she got there. Yeah, let's give it to I like Shambo.
Awesome.
Screw it, Shambo. Yeah.
How about worst player?
For worst player, I actually landed on Liz. Despite the Herculean effort at the challenge and convincing Russell to keep her around, that's remembering that she was already Russell's primary target, and she was the third person to walk up to Russell and say to his face, I don't trust you. I don't know that we can work together. This is a bad move, and no one else on either of the tribe made a worse move. Dishonorable mention to Russell for sending Shambo again, but at least overall, Galoo is a functional tribe. Russell's in good standing on that tribe. That tribe is enough up in numbers where if Shambo flips, it doesn't make a difference. So it's got to be Liz for putting herself in a worse position with someone who clearly can't be trusted. You don't tell someone you can't trust that you don't trust them, because then you really can't trust them.
You make really good arguments. I originally gave it to Russell Swan for sending Shambo to Fofo, and then I also didn't like his fight with Dave. I think it's better. Both of them, Liz did really good in the challenge, which I think saved her. She dug herself a hole and got herself out of the hole, at least temporarily. So, but you make some really good points. I'm perfectly willing to throw this one up to Josh.
Ooh. Remembering that Russell and Dave made up like adults after their little incident.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
I really don't like that move. I think that is a strong enough move alone to give it to Russell. So sorry, Derek. I'm going to side with Ryan again.
I know democracy may
close,
prevail,
though.
but I do think that Liz's actions were more detrimental to her standing on her tribe. So that's
dishonorable mention.
If it helps at all, I'm not quite willing to flip it to you. I almost did, but I didn't. And
Ryan only gives you one flip.
But you made very strong arguments, Derek. You've not had a bad take yet today. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
It's a miracle.
Derek's becoming better. I'm proud of you. If that helps at all.
I'm sure it'll turn around.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, plenty of time. Those usually show up in the post-merge. Episode 6, this is the man test. 5 days straight of rain.
Oh my gosh.
And it's not just a light rain. It's downpouring this whole time.
Who was it who lived under a tree for 22 hours? Was it Eric?
Eric found a hole in a tree and became a hobbit or whatever. He found himself a hole in the ground and was there for like 24 hours.
He's like,
crazy.
If I leave my back against the bark, it holds the heat from my body and gives it back to me.
God, I remember that.
He just pokes his head out of the hole. It's very funny.
In a hole in the ground, there lived a Survivor contestant.
In the hole in the ground, there lived an Eric.
And this is a very nasty, soggy, wormy hole, unlike a hobbit hole.
These are the kinds of rains where, like, you've seen people quit because of it.
Yep. Yes, we have.
Is this not what happened to Austin, if I remember right? At least part of it?
There's a couple of yeah. There's been a couple.
Some that Derek hasn't seen, possibly.
Sure.
I can't keep seasons straight, so who knows?
There are 41 of them.
I can keep them all straight. On Galoo, the only person working is Russell Swan. Everyone else is hiding in the rain. Russell, stop working and go hide from the rain.
And this is where I made a point to make a very emboldened note. Russell, taking comfort was a horrible plan. I almost want to give him worst player of the episode for last episode and this episode just because of the horrible dividends getting paid to him for that really bad decision. It's so bad.
It's real bad.
This ugly comforter just sopping wet. They're pulling it over their face because it's the one thing that they have.
What's so sad?
I think they even talk about it. I think Brett says something finally. They're like standing under the tree together. He's like, man, don't you wish we had a tarp?
Yep, all the guys say that. And then the girls, Kelly's like, I really wish he had picked the tarp. I buyer's remorse. Kelly's on this show?
Who are you?
Your decisions matter in this game, even when you don't think they will.
Take the tarp. Period. Reward challenge, because it's going to be a double tribal council night. One person from each tribe is going to go home. The winners get to eat pizza and sit in on the vote. They're going to vote somebody else out, and then they get to stay behind and watch the vote and eat pizza.
And before we get here, I want to touch on one important point. So Russell, even though it's not explicitly said, really seemed like he was pulling double duty, trying to keep the fire going and keeping the camp together in the rain.
Triple duty even.
He doesn't say it, but it might be because he didn't pick the tarp. And so he's like, as the leader, I got to try and pick up where the slack is happening. That is my responsibility as leader.
Feels guilty.
So he goes into this challenge absolutely burnt out, absolutely wiped. He left nothing for this challenge. And he should have sat out of it.
Yeah, Davian's just like, Russell, if you want to sit out, we got this. And Russell's like, no, I got this. Sorry.
I really want to participate in this.
If only he'd sat out, maybe he could have recovered. Russell is going to collapse in the middle of the challenge in a very scary manner.
So I will have this, I think, imprinted in my head forever. Because they're on the edge of like a full-size like tilt maze. Yeah, table maze, tilt maze. He rests his head on the corner of it and like stays standing in like a squatted
his
position.
Shirt gets hooked on it so he can't fall over.
Well, at first what happens is like his chin is in the corner of it and he's just standing there, and then Jeff comes and puts his hand on his shoulder and he falls off. His shirt hooks the corner of it and he's just like hung like a rag doll.
He's passed out.
And just gone. It's one of the most terrifying things I've seen that I knew was like reality actually happening.
It is almost funny for a second when everybody's like, Russell, get off the board. Russell, get off the table. But like it's like a dark comedy. It's like, oh, this stuff's about to get real.
Yeah. And like the bench players are like, what's Russell doing? Like, what's going on with Russell?
And this is the closest anyone has ever come on the show to dying.
On U.S. Survivor.
On U.S. Survivor. Caleb being a close second, but Russell, oh boy, his blood pressure was lower than Mike's from earlier in this season. There's a couple moments where he tries to stand up and then he passes out and then like he's gone. This was close. This is the like, besides maybe Michael Scoopin, most like critical, like get him out of here now medical evac we've ever had. Yeah,
and it doesn't really need to be said that this is the most memorable nominee number 3 for the season.
So Russell gets pulled,
and I can like you, Derek. You just watched recently, but like I can picture it just like almost like frame for frame, just because like it also comes up just over and over again when like people talk about like Medivacs and later on in future seasons. So
I think if I wanted to bring a picture to the memory of the audience or to anyone who's reflecting, it's the second time that he blacks out because his eyes are wide open and they're talking to him, but he's just facing straight forward.
It's just blank.
And it's like he's gone. And then like all of a sudden he slowly comes to and like his eyes slowly look to the left at the person asking questions at the medical examiner. And it's just like, holy wow.
Very disturbing.
I would say out of body, but it was just surreal. It doesn't happen often, and it never happens like that. So it was...
Thank Christ.
Yeah.
So a valuable lesson for any future castaways, if you're going to learn something from Russell, you're pushing yourself to the breaking point. And I always say, like, in an endurance challenge, I'm going to go until I pass out. But here's the thing about that. If you do, there is a chance that you get pulled from the game. So the only time in an endurance challenge, if I'm going to go until I pass out, is if it's for the $1 million prize or if I know I'm on the chopping block.
Yeah.
And then my fate is in the hands of the medical examiner.
And chill a little bit more around camp. It's okay to take breaks.
Yes.
Breaks are important.
I would not put myself in that situation, but I was also not unwillingly elected leader, and I would have also picked the tarp. So, like, it's kind of a bunch of compounding little things that all just led to Russell trying to do too much. And he has a really heartbreaking story where he's like, at home, I need to, be the provider for my wife and for my daughter. That's why I'm out here. I feel like I've failed them. And I'm like, this is really the most gut-wrenching medevac that I think I've ever seen. And I felt so badly for Russell.
Boy, it's probably number one.
Yeah.
I would say in terms of gut-wrenchingness, I think it's number one.
Yeah. Because, like, when he's lying on his back, he's pretty lucid when you give him a chance to come to. And he knows exactly what's happening. It's just when he tries to move that he can't. Yep.
So both tribes are going to go to tribal council and vote somebody out. They're told on Fofo, Natalie and Liz are just like, yeah, it's going to be one of us, and we're going to vote for each other. Nothing we can do. I mean, they're probably right.
Yeah.
But for Galoo, this is a little more interesting, because Laura, Kelly, and Monica, they want Shambo out, because obviously.
And they say that's easy. Easy vote. Everybody knows.
The guys want to get rid of Monica, because Monica and Laura are super tight. They want to break that up. They want to bring in Shambo to knock out Monica and separate her from Laura. This is a stupid move, because you guys are all tight with Laura, Kelly, and Monica. You can get rid of them when you get to the merge. Getting rid of Shambo is easy because she's such a wild card. You keep your whole unit together, and and then if you vote out Monica here, you piss off Laura, you piss off Kelly. This is such a stupid move.
Also, Shambo's been to the other side.
Yeah. Oh God. Luckily, this plan does not go through. Everyone's gonna go to tribal council together. Both tribes are gonna show up. They're just gonna talk. No vote, but Eric is really intense with Fofo and is basically like, oh, we're going to crush you now. We're going to do it for Russell, and we're going to destroy you and all of your loved ones. Then we'll burn your house down. It's just like, dude, take a chill pill, bud.
And it definitely seemed more like he was addressing Russell, because Russell was saying like, hey, Jeff, we're going to come back. We're going to get him. We're coming for your booties. And Eric was like, listen, I'm not letting that go unanswered. Eric was just kind of like responding to Russell. And then Eric's like, I bet you if Russell was up 8-5, he'd be over here saying, look at there, we got 8, they got 5. It's because we have a better tribe and they're trash. And I'm like, you're probably right, but like you probably shouldn't put words in his mouth.
Hey, you don't say that.
He said the quiet part out loud.
So for best player, I didn't give out one for this episode because what am I supposed to do? There's nothing like good happened. I have no idea who to give it to.
So, okay, because there was no vote, I actually said, like, NA for best and worst in general, because, like, nobody went home, right? I mean, someone went home, but nobody was sent home. That being said, I did assign a best and a worst, and for my best, I assigned it to Natalie because, on the one hand, you have that understanding with Liz, like, okay, we're going to vote for each other, but she was also able to leverage her social bond with Russell to make sure that she would have been the one staying.
Yeah, it was going to be Liz.
It was going to be Liz going home. So I gave her credit for the move that never happened because I wanted to do something. I wanted to fill the space with something. So Natalie, but there's really not anything here.
Yeah, my final answer is none.
Derek was not confident enough, so I'm going to go with none. Which I rarely do. Like, usually if it was like, hey, congrats, you mentioned someone.
There's just, there was talk, but like, talk is cheap.
Right. Like, I mean, what is talk? Can we almost say for certain that Natalie would have been safe with Russell? Like, to maybe try and sway you, Josh, Russell and Natalie had a very clear conversation on the beach before Tribal where Russell says, it's absolutely going to be Liz tonight. Like, there's no question about it. And then Natalie says, yeah, Liz and I spoke. We know we're voting for each other. And Russell's like, oh, if that's the case, you're staying. Like, you're good. So, like, we did have that very explicit moment, but because there was no vote put into action, that could have just been lip service. Russell's done that before, but everything we heard in confessional pointed to Russell going with Natalie, or like keeping Natalie around. So by a hair of what didn't happen, that's why I had her.
And did you have anyone for worst?
Yeah, I had a worst. I'm going to give my worst to Eric. The plan to take out Monica was his. This was a stupid plan, and he was also way too intense at Tribal Council. Bring it down from like 13 to at least an 11.
So I had a note for like basically all the men on Galoo for their horrible plan. I honestly had Monica as a dishonorable mention for like not being self-aware enough to realize that people were plotting against her, but like there's no logic that would support that. But Eric was getting into a pissing match with Russell at Tribal, and that's not good. So I had Eric as a worst.
So since there is a worst player, I think I will go on the side of just kind of like defaulting to Natalie then for the best.
Okay, that's fair.
That's all I'm doing too.
Russell Swan is going to play again. Do we want to see it?
Yeah, I think I do. And I'd love to see him in a role where he was not made leader right away. I'd like to see if he learned from some of his mistakes, and I would love to see him have a choice between a pillow and blankets and a tarp again.
Josh.
It's kind of one of those, for me, I wasn't a huge like Russell fan, like, oh yeah, I can't wait to see Russell again, like that type of thing. but it's more just like, yeah, sure, I guess.
You get medically evacuated, I want to see you come back, generally.
Yep.
Just because it's like, he got a bad break, a really bad break.
That being said, like, I would not want to see Mike back, and that's more of a for his health reason.
Yeah, he shouldn't be on Survivor again, just because, he seemed like a fun character. He's too old and not in the best shape.
And he's a private chef. I bet he has stories to tell.
There's a part where he's like, I'm a mean motor scooter. And it's like, dude, this guy's got, why is he going to leave now?
Bye.
He's got 2 confessionals, and he's pretty funny in both. Cool, so we want to see Russell play again. My winner pick goes home here. What do you do? So at the time, my new winner pick was Russell Hantz because, like, the one person with screen time that isn't Shambo.
Yep.
Just like, he's controlling this entire game. Like, fine. And at the time, I was getting on the hype train because there's a lot of people like, yeah, let's go, Russell Hantz. Today, I would not have picked Russell Hantz because it's like, this is going to blow up in your face at some point, dude. I don't know when, but it's going to. Also, you're down to 5 people. Eric and Dave are my top 2. I like Dave more, but Eric's got the idol, so I think Eric would have been my pick with an honorable mention to Dave. But we go based off what my original pick was, so Russell Hantz is locked in as my new pick. So we'll see how that goes for me. Episode 7, last one of the pre-merge, Houdini Magic.
Woo.
Eric and Galoo come with a pretty, actually, not bad plan. They decide they need to elect a new leader. Russell Swan's gone. They need a new leader.
Are they forced to elect a new leader? Okay. Yep. I was gonna say, like, are they just deciding this out of
Jeff
nowhere?
Told them they need to do
They even have hardware. They have a necklace.
There's a necklace. So the guys decide to elect Shambo because they feel like it'll bring her into the group and, like, kind of keep her happy. It's actually pretty smart.
Sure.
I want to say that it's ham-fisted, but I don't know that Shambo saw through it.
I don't think so at all.
No, and that's why it's perfect. Is like, she's the perfect candidate because she basically will be like Russell, where, like, she should embrace it and should love it.
Yeah, she absolutely loves it.
Remember earlier in the season when this was foreshadowed? If I was leader of the tribe, I would. Now, to her credit, she's not really going to do any of those things.
No, Monica does get suspicious, like, wait, why did all the guys over Shambo?
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
This is getting sus.
This is pretty sus.
So we get a matching game reward challenge where, it's matching, but
these are so cool.
The twist with this one is you can give up a point when you match something because they're survival items. You can just take the items instead. It's kind of cool. I would really like this early on, I think, or maybe earlier in the season where you can give up potentially winning reward to get some, like, useful survival items. Kind of cool.
Galoo gets their tarp.
Yep.
It's all coming around.
Galoo wins. Shambo, since she's the leader now, she sends Laura out of FOFO to miss the reward. That's kind of funny.
Sweet revenge.
Complete spite. 100% spite. I'm here for it. And hey, you know what? She hasn't been before. It's fair.
Yeah.
Technically, yeah.
It's fine enough.
And she's going to miss out on, like, the boating cruise they're all going to go on. They're going to, it's kind of like the ones we went on in Cabo. But I think my little favorite part is Dave Ball. He's driving the boat at one point. He's like, we're going to go find some booty. We're going to go do a little grogging. We're going to do a little wenching. A little more wenching. It's just like this little thing. It's what?
Dave kind of came out of nowhere in, like, episode 4 of this pre-merge with just a few things here and there where you're like, okay, this guy's kind of funny.
I like Dave. I like Dave. He's fun. Doesn't get a ton of screen time in the pre-merge, but when he does pop up, it's fun. So Shambo's reasoning, though, was she wanted to keep the guys strong for the challenge, so they didn't want to miss the reward. All right, if you're going to go that way, then you send Monica, because Laura's pretty good at these challenges. So send Monica. Or send an ally over to Foa. You could send, like, an Eric or something like that.
She's just saying, like, it's a little strategic, a lot personal.
It's very personal.
You can find some strategic somewhere in there.
Somewhere. It wasn't the best move, I think, but it was very funny.
Monica was probably the ideal move here.
So Laura goes over to Fofa, and Russell approaches her to make a final 3 deal. And Russell discovers Laura is a women's preacher.
And, like, the daughter of a pastor of some kind.
But she's very quick to point out, like, I believe that women are allowed to preach to men. I focus on women's preaching stuff. And it's like, yep, okay. Okay, Laura.
Here's where we actually see it. And, like, it doesn't feel like inside baseball anymore.
Yeah.
The only thing that's kind of inside baseball is Shambo's sexual orientation, which is not touched on in this pre-merge.
Never touched on the show. So Russell makes a final 3 deal with her, and Russell figures this out that she's like, a preacher, basically, a pastor or whatever. And he's like, I can tell you're a good Christian. I have a nose for telling when people are good Christians.
That's why I'm having this conversation with you. I had a feeling. I knew.
I don't know what Russell's religious beliefs are, but dang, was that good. Oh yeah, that was awesome. That might be, besides finding the idol without a clue, that is my favorite move of his in the pre-merge.
For 18 seasons, we've been saying, got to be careful. People can use religion as a weapon. You can use it as a tool. You can use it as a crux. You can use it as a weapon. And I think it might have worked here. I think it may have worked.
It was real smooth.
Because Laura just beaming like, I am a good Christian, aren't I?
Yep.
And this is the only time that religion's ever going to come up in Survivor. Never again.
Boy. That is... Whew, teasing ahead. I can't wait for that season. I'm so excited. I know most people don't like that season. I love that season. So for those of you who know what we're talking about,
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. That's going to be fun.
Even I have a small idea of where this is. Anyway.
And then he also does the thing. He's like, oh yeah, Ben found the idol. Don't bother looking for it. He hid it somewhere and got voted out.
So again, we're scapegoating, and I like it. Good move on Laura for making a verbal, handshake alliance with Russell on this other tribe, making the best of a bad situation, getting sent over, and better on Russell for reading the I'm super religious, she's super religious, I can use that to my advantage and make a super strong tie with her. So here's an alliance. Here's a final 2 deal. She buys it.
And that was one punch of the 1-2. Here comes Natalie. Natalie and Laura are going to bond over religious, specifically talking about religious books they read. And this one feels a little bit more genuine because Natalie is religious, but it's still, you can bond with somebody. It can be a genuine bond. Genuine bonds are good in Survivor.
What?
So if you can bond with somebody over something like religion, which is a core tenet for some people, that's great. And you can definitely use that later on, whether it is fake or genuine. But this is really going to annoy Liz. She's like, why is Natalie over there talking to Laura when she could be helping me with the fire? And Russell, official's like, you're an idiot. She's making social inroads. That's important in the game.
She's doing what you should be doing.
Why aren't you talking to her, Liz? It's very funny. Very funny.
Not a good look for my winner pick.
Not a great look for your winner pick. This whole episode's not a great
One
look
of
for your
the few looks that we've even had.
Galoo wins immunity. Jason was terrible in the challenge. This was squarely on, pretty much completely on Jason. It was terrible.
And granted, they did lose it at the puzzle, but Jason was not solving the puzzle at all.
Not helping at all.
There was a clear pattern, and he just wasn't able to put it together. And starvation can do that, and 5 days of rain can do that to you, or 6 days of rain can do that to you. Nonetheless, he was the only one who really wasn't pulling his weight.
Tribal Council, 4 votes for Liz, 1 vote for Jason. I think this is probably the clearest one of the season, save for maybe Ben, where Russell, Jason, and Mick and Natalie have an alliance. I don't know if they're all together in one alliance, but they're all connected to Russell, and Russell's connected to all of them. The only person who doesn't seem to be in an alliance with anybody is Liz.
And I think she was in the alliance. I think
she was.
I think it was an alliance of 5, but Foa has lost so much that you have to start trimming people that you actually wanted to keep around for a while. All of the dead weight is gone, and now you're starting to trim off lean. And it's like, what are you supposed to do? And
the person we can't trust.
The person you can trust the least,
yep.
Even. So, because Liz had an honest working relationship with everyone. I think it was, shown more with Russell, where it's like, we're playing Survivor, we can only trust each other so much. And then Russell's like, you saying you can't trust me? Dude.
Well, and even that works because, he can just say that to people, because he's going to do that a few times. Like, somebody says, hey, I don't trust you, Russell. And Russell's going to go tell everybody, who says that? Why would you say that?
Oh, do it at your own risk. But, there is an implicit understanding or an intrinsic understanding in Survivor that nobody really trusts anybody, not as far as you can throw them. But, you have to choose to trust some people more than others, and you never say to someone to their face, I don't trust you. Liz did that.
Yep.
And that probably made her 5 out of 5 on what seemed to be a working relationship alliance for most of the pre-merge.
Derek, best player of the episode.
I actually did end up giving it to Laura because I think that even though Russell was able to use that religious advantage to make a social inroad with Laura was able to connect with not just Russell, but with Natalie, and also made the best out of a bad situation that she didn't really create for herself on camera. There might have been behind-the-scenes stuff with Shambo that we don't know, and I'll maybe go so far as to say that there were things, but best of a bad situation, has those inroads, has a final 2 deal with someone on the other tribe, and is still in the majority on her tribe. Really good situation going into a merge for Laura.
I'm going to go with Russell. He made that alliance with Laura, lied to her effectively, and then he eliminated Liz, his biggest threat on his own tribe. So I'm going with Russell.
Sorry, Derek, I'm going to go with Ryan again here. I understand where you're coming from, so it's not a bad take at all. But I think that it's a lot more credit to Russell than her, or even Natalie on the other side, who did a similar thing. But I think that it's the showing of a much better player overall to be able to form that bond when it's not genuine. So I'm going to give Russell a lot of credit for that.
It's harder to make a disingenuous bond. It's better to make a genuine bond. And that's my only rebuttal. But like,
she doesn't know that it's disingenuous.
Game respects game. She may not know that it's disingenuous, but if she knows, quote unquote, that her bond with Natalie and Russell are both genuine, the bond that she made with Natalie is more genuine than the bond that Russell also has with Natalie at that point.
True.
Because, I mean, at least one way that's disingenuous. So that's just how I feel. I understand why you would pick Russell because it is such a hard thing to pull off. But I think Laura had further to fall. She could have gone the Yasmin route. She didn't.
Most people are not going to go to the Yasmin.
That is not the bar. But unfortunately, that is the bar for this season.
Yeah.
Fair.
But anyway.
How about worst player?
I had Jason for his challenge performance. Russell's been pretty strong with him. I don't want to say it's like been on again, off again, because he's mentioned several times that like he's getting annoyed or fed up with Jason, but he always, Jason comes back around on it. But the poor showing in the challenge performance and people being visibly and audibly kind of upset by it shows that he's fallen far, and if they had to go to tribal again, it would probably be Jason going home.
Mine is Shambo. She agreed to become the leader of the tribe. She was fully on board with this idea and wanted it. And then sending Laura to Fofo was not a great strategic move. There were better strategic moves to make. This was strictly personal. While funny, not optimal. So my worst is Shambo.
I will throw in a caveat that she did not necessarily want to be the leader. She did say, we have to vote about it. We have to talk to everyone about this. We need to get together in a group and decide on it.
But she wanted it.
And that was how it got decided. So she didn't just like walk into a tent and be like, I want to be leader. Do we all say aye? No, they all did, like a blind vote. And the men put up the threes and they had the numbers to give it to her regardless.
But when the guys approached her with the idea, she was like, yeah, sure.
She was like, okay. Like in confessional, she was like, yeah, sure. But she was not to, I think it was to Eric. She was like, oh, okay. I mean, we need to put this to a vote. So I would say that it's not quite as bad as you're making it out to be.
But you shouldn't want to be the leader under any circumstances. Like the fact that she wanted it at all, even though she did a fairly good job of hiding that she wanted it, the fact that she wants it, was willing to go along with it, is bad.
But giving Russell credit for hiding something really well and pulling it off, and then not giving Shambo credit for hiding something and pulling it off.
You were comparing apples and oranges, sir.
I'm just saying.
I love when you guys argue and try to plead your cases. While I don't think either one is like very strongly negative.
There was no clear and obvious worst.
I'm going to side with Derek on this one.
Yes.
My main reason being that I don't see being the leader of the tribe as such a big negative this late in the pre-merge. That's something that I don't like early on in the pre-merge because it can set the tone for the entire way up until the merge for you. Once you cross over into the after the merge, this leader title probably isn't going to matter. You might make new alliances, like you're probably not going to have the same rules that go along with whatever leader title is. So I'm not going to really dock Shambo for those reasons.
And one thing I forgot to mention, I'm glad you sided with me because I don't know that this would be any sort of tiebreaker, but Shambo was made indispensable by the men of her tribe. Because they all said, oh, she has to be our fifth. So now whether she chooses to go with the women to try and take out a man, even though that was never really on the table, or she goes with the men, she has minimum 3 people in front of her that would go home before her under those circumstances. So I thought that was really good as well.
I mean, that doesn't really sound like something that she did, though, but...
Hey, that's a credit to her social game that's paying off this episode.
Sure, if you want to say that.
Josh, you lose your winner pick here.
Aww.
And this is...
I felt so strongly about her.
We're at the end of the pre-merge. When we get to the post-merge, we always talk about, like, if we could switch our winner picks to someone else, who would we switch them to? We can't do that. Josh, you were in the fortunate position where you get to, actually. So who is your new winner pick? Lock it in.
My original one, since I had it written down, I did make a new winner pick back in the day a couple of years ago. And my new winner pick was Russell. And I felt pretty good about that. And I think I would make the same pick now. There isn't anyone else I feel strongly enough about that's remaining in the season. I'd be guessing, really, or basing off of something in the edit that I may have found.
And this last episode he had was really good.
It's really feeling like it might not be like the most positive winner edit, but it feels like there's just so much going on that it's like, how can you choose anyone but Russell? That is the way that I felt a couple of years ago, and I could still see myself thinking the same way now.
Derek, you have Brett.
I have Brett.
Have we talked about Brett much?
We sure have not.
Would you keep Brett or would you move on to somebody else if you could?
If I could move on to somebody else, I think that I would. And I think I want to let fate decide on this.
Oh, God.
So, okay. And here's because Josh just
It's
said...
a good thing you can't actually you can't actually change it.
Yeah, I understand. That's why I'm allowed to have a little fun, because I am stuck. So we're just having fun. This is a hypothetical anyway. Josh says there's really no one you can land on other than Russell, because everyone is criminally under-edited this season, right?
Yep.
Other than Russell and Shambo, right? And then to a certain extent, like Mick, I guess, and Eric
I'd
is
say
getting
more Jason.
something.
They're getting...
And
they've had confessionals.
Yes, and Jason is definitely there. But like Jason's on the downswing. The Mick and the Eric, it feels like I can't remember who was in an alliance with like Corinne and Gabon.
Oh, Marcus.
Brendan from Pearl Islands. Like,
Oh, Marcus.
Oh, yeah, the very generic white guy.
right. So like that feels like that to me. So I don't want to switch to any of them. So I'm gonna go to the final three deal that we've actually heard on screen. It's Russell Hands, Natalie, and Laura. Okay. I believe that will be the final three. And the only thing I have going on that is what we've seen, because nothing else has happened. We have nothing else. Now, that being said, I want to go a little bit deeper, and I want to analyze how much is Russell actually in control of this game? Because after, Marisa, which was basically him, he forced the issue on that. He gave up on Ben, right?
Oh, he forced Betsy out, too. He got both of those.
Betsy, people were not fighting for. There was no clear answer. He was just like, hey, let's go Betsy. And everyone's like, oh, fine enough. She's not building social inroads. We're cool with that. Ben, Jason decided. Mike, Medivac'd. Ashley was, again, kind of a group effort. Now, granted, Russell did throw her under the bus the previous episode, but that wasn't enough to get her sent home. It was her poor challenge performance, nothing that Russell did. And then Liz, even though, again, went to Russell's face, this could have been a trick of the edit, where it's just like, oh, everyone who confronts Russell is going home. But everyone was, again, unanimously on this idea of getting rid of Liz because she was the biggest threat on her tribe, not because she was feuding with Russell. I feel like we're being fed a false narrative here that he is in control of everything, and there's just nothing else happening, and he's the most interesting character. This is a cast of vanilla people. That being said, we do have 2 hints in this pre-merge of Russell not really having a good social game. Everything with Betsy, where she's like, oh, we don't really trust Russell. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, well, blah, blah, blah. And then Natalie saying, I want to go to the end with Russell because I think I can beat him. He rubs people the wrong way. I think his social game is absolute crap. Either Laura or Natalie will win. I'm going to flip the coin to find out. Heads, Natalie. Tails, Laura. Tails. So I'm going with Laura.
So if you would switch, you'd switch to Laura.
If I would switch, I would switch to Laura, because I think whoever Russell goes to the end with would win, because he's pissing everybody off and he's not actually driving this game. And that's just going off of an edit.
Okay, we'll see. Mine is Russell Hantz. Mine is staying with Russell Hantz, because I don't know who else you could land on. Right, Josh?
Yeah, basically. I think that Derek has bias in his head a little bit, that he's looking at it in a very specific way, because everyone that you named off, you said it was basically, now Russell might have had some influence, but and always you had a reason for like 2 or 3 different people in there to reason yourself out of thinking that Russell had some sort of influence on those votes. And I specifically remember, at least, and maybe this is just because I had watched a decent amount of Survivor, but I hadn't gone through like the full on like analysis side of it as much with like this podcast and everything, and really thinking about it on a different level. But when I had first watched this a few years ago, like it really was like, well, Liz is gone, new winner pick. Like I feel very strongly about Russell at that point. So
didn't you also say that you had colossally bad takes when you first watched the season? And I have
sometimes, but I don't think that this is one.
I have 32 seasons of editology and talking with you and Ryan, and also like, what would this be? 21 seasons of Ryan telling me that the social game is the most important aspect of the game.
True.
It's literally the number one thing that I'm looking for, and for that reason, I can almost never pick a villain to win the game. And it's not just a villain by edit. He's being a villain to people, And we've already seen Boston Rob lose the game for being a villain to people. So even if there is intrinsic bias here or not, I don't think that I would ever be able to pick Russell Hands to be my winner.
Okay.
I really don't.
Fair enough. Best player of the pre-merge, I'm going to give mine to Russell Hantz. I think there's an argument that can be made for Mick, because he was elected leader and he has completely shed that. Not his problem anymore, but I just like, Russell's not perfect, but like it's almost like everyone else gets an eye for incomplete, or Shambo gets bad. But there's just so little to work off of. It's just like who has the most evidence and who has done some good stuff. Russell. So I have to give by default best player of the pre-merge is Russell Hantz.
So I went in a different direction. I always like to pick the person who's like in a really strong position on the stronger tribe going in. And even though he did have like a bicker moment with Russell at a tribal that was I'll say it was tribalism, I actually had Eric, because I think that on his tribe, he is in a really good spot. He's not elected leader. He's in a strong majority for. They brought in Shambo. Who knows how much that's going to last, but he can certainly make inroads. And if Galoo stays together, there's no reason to think that he would go out immediately, because he at least has 3 other guys that he can scapegoat in front of him who are also playing a very similar game. And from what I've seen, especially with this last bit with Shambo, where he's like, hey, let's make Shambo the leader, he seems to be the savviest of the guys remaining on Galoo. So for that reason, I went with Eric.
Josh?
I would have to go Russell. Mostly with what like Ryan is saying with like incomplete, but also, yeah, he can be abrasive with the way that he executes, but he executes. So he has made easily the most moves. Now, I completely respect Derek's path for thinking you want someone who's not super obvious in the pre-merge.
The chameleon.
So,
yeah, like 100%. That's why I honorable mention Mick.
Yeah, so like if I would choose someone, I think it would be someone like Mick, but it's so hard to remember, like from my perspective at this point, which is why I'm gonna stick with Russell here.
And one more reason, I'm not changing. And by the way, I can't fault the Russell pick. Russell made the legendary move of finding the idol without a clue.
Yeah.
But lost in all of that is Eric also finding an idol without really an official clue. He had a clue, but it wasn't a clue to that idol.
Clue of deduction.
So it was enough to lift him back up over Russell. And that was a tough mountain to climb. But I was like, you know what, stronger tribe, who's in the best position on that stronger tribe? And it wasn't just a stronger tribe, it was a tribe that absolutely mopped up for the entire pre-merge. So I think back to season 10 where the stronger tribe absolutely just mopped up in the post-merge too. Who is in the best position? That's where I fell on Eric.
It really feels like Russell is one of the only people who's actually playing, and I know that might just be part of the edit, but that's just the way that it feels.
Yep, 100%.
That's why I can't fault it.
And that's what we have to go off of.
Yeah, and that's why Survivor needs to be better at editing.
That's why I can't fault it. And that's where you said this is one of the worst edited seasons. 100%.
Yep.
We don't know anybody almost. We have to read between the lines to get to know anyone other than Russell and Shambo.
Yep. Worst player of the pre-merge is Shambo.
Yeah.
Some people seem to like her. A lot of people don't. Any strategy she has shown, I'm not sure is intentional. Yeah, she's had a lot of bad moments. She's not like a complete zero by any means, but I think it's a clear. And by the way, anyone who's, because obviously we would give it to Ben if we could, but anyone who's voted out pre-merge is not eligible. So of the final 12, only they can win best and worst player of the pre-merge. So we don't count anybody who has already
important
been.
To note this time.
To know. Otherwise, we give it to Ben. But I think it's Shambo.
It's Shambo. No matter where she ends up, if she flips to 404, if she stays true to Galoo, she's a pawn either way. She is not forging her own path. She's not doing anything that would warrant her to win this game.
No one's taking her seriously.
No.
Yeah, I'm not going to go so far as to say that she can't win. I don't want to make that claim, but I do think that she has almost no chance, and either way, it's a pawn.
Well, Derek, you love to do it. Who can't win the game at the merge?
This arguably might be the toughest one to do, just because there's so many incompletes. You have to go off editology almost at this point instead of like actual gameplay.
No, that's fair. I didn't even make a note on that. Let me think.
Man, Derek not noting who can't win the game? Impossible.
Who's had the least amount of screen time? I would say probably Kelly and Brett, probably the bottom two for screen time.
From an editology perspective, I would agree that it's Kelly who can't win. Yeah. If you're looking at someone who has an edit, I would say it is Shambo. Yeah. And I'm saying edit very loosely. Like Mick counts, Eric counts, Dave counts. I guess everyone on Foa, just because we've met them more, counts. Like we've gotten to know them just because they've been at Tribal so much.
And even, what's so sad is we're down to 4 people on Foa, and obviously we got to know Russell and Jason. Mick a little bit, and like Natalie's one of 4 people left, and we like don't know anything about her besides the fact that she's Christian.
She exists,
and that it's just like editors, give us something to be invested in besides one person.
It's like their goal was to create a main character, and that's all it was.
And they succeeded. But that should not have been their goal.
It shouldn't be. Agreed.
Our goal was to create the world's strongest Pokemon. And we succeeded. This is Russell Hantz is the Mewtwo of Survivor.
This is the weirdest comparison that I wasn't expecting today.
Pokemon, the first movie reference, for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, don't go watch it. It's not very good.
They were too worried about if they could. They didn't think of if they should.
So let's wrap things up here. Any thoughts you guys want to say so far going into the merge? Anything besides the edit being terrible?
I feel like I said it earlier in the podcast, but it really was a tale of two halves. I don't know that Russell would have been nearly so effective on Foafoa had the weather not been so awful. I think one of the reasons that he did well was because he was hardy despite the weather. Everyone else maybe not wanting to strategize so hard, maybe not really wanting to fight the flow of the current as much, and he was able to do that. And I don't want to say that his sabotage in episode 1 kind of worked to further his game, because I feel like he could have done it without that. But that rain was something to behold. It was almost too much. It was like, this is so awful that you wouldn't believe it in a TV show. You wouldn't believe it in a movie. It rained for 6. I think he made a biblical reference, like it rained for 7 days and 7 nights and survived. I guess it was 40 days and 40 nights for Noah's Ark, but whatever, you get the point. So that was the one thing that I wanted to note. I think that this is the worst storm that's happened in terms of duration in Survivor to date. The only maybe more cataclysmic moment would be the earthquake and possibly the flood in Australia.
Yeah, Australia's flood was pretty rough.
So, because I mean, that they lost all their stuff, but even that was like a flash flood. It was gone in a night.
Yep.
So, and I'm not even sure they were there for most of it.
Yeah.
Josh, anything you want to say?
No, I mean, I don't think so. Kind of like what I said at the beginning of this podcast. Like this pre-merge is filled with a handful of very memorable moments,
Which we'll get to in a second.
but outside of that, everything around it is very forgettable. If you're just asking for someone's input from just a couple of years into the future, it's just interesting the way that it stays with you.
You know, and the next thing we talk about is the weather report, which you've already touched on.
Yep.
Weather-wise, this might be the worst season of Survivor.
For rain, it absolutely is. I mean, a 6-day rainstorm, it might have been like 5 days, took a 12-hour break, and then it was back again. I would not want to be on this season. This is one of the seasons I would want to be on the least. You know, maybe Africa below this. You know, Gabon was pretty bad too. Marquesas with the bugs.
Yep.
But
This one's up there.
Hopefully, at least you'd have a tarp.
seeing their feet and their hands just completely like soaked and
Pruny and
just nasty and
wearing away.
and like how is that supposed to get better? You know, so
It doesn't.
really hard season, really hard.
Really tough weather-wise. Last thing we have to do is, Josh, memorability consultant.
What's up?
What do you think is, halfway through the season, what is the most memorable moment of the pre-merge?
This is actually pretty tough.
Yeah.
I have a couple of nominees, as I mentioned during the episode. Starting from the beginning, Russell sabotaging the camp with the socks and the canteens. I specifically just laying the socks over the fire, just burned into my mind. And then you also have the first time that someone finds the idol without a clue. So Russell again. And then finally, Russell again, just not the same Russell, fainting at the challenge. This is tough. I think I would have to go with Russell fainting just because of how often it's brought up. It's brought up more than the other two for sure. Just kind of like into the future of Survivor, just throughout with all the medivacs and everything. Like, this is the one that everyone talks about. There's obviously a couple of others just like severity wise, but like this is in that core group.
It's one of the big three, I would say,
Yeah.
for medical vacs. It's this one, Scoopin', who we don't want to talk about anymore, and then Caleb.
Yeah. Initially, when I first thought of this season, like, part of me was thinking that it was going to be the socks on the fire. That would probably be, that's a very, very, very close second. But I think it's got to be Russell fainting.
I agree. All right. Well, that wraps up the pre-merge Survivor Samoa. Next time we'll be doing the post-merge, talking about who wins this game, whether Russell Hantz can pull it off or not. We shall see. Guys, anything else?
Nope.
I don't think so.
All right. You can follow us on Twitter at Castaway Pod and go ahead and give us 5-star reviews. We deserve it because we had to sit through this misery. It was just as tough for us to watch the season as it was for them to sit out in the rain. So we deserve 5-star reviews for that.
I think so.
Yeah. All right. This has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.